The first sequence this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 Side Quest Unlocked, Seed. That afternoon, the snowstorm was so strong that even the officers of the Shinji battalion could not stand it. The person in charge of breaking the snow had to pull his back leg out of the snow before he could take another step. Even if everyone took turns breaking the snow, it would be very difficult to walk on flat ground in this weather. However, no one dared to faint the whole afternoon, for they were afraid of being dragged to death in the snow by Ren Xiaosu. "Let's set up camp," said the officer of the Shinji battalion. "We will continue to move forward after the snow stops." This was not the time to save face. If they continued to walk, they might all die in the snow. At that point, the mission would not be completed, and they would not even be able to reach Shuanglong Mountain. The officers of the Shinji battalion felt that they could still hold on, but the soldiers of the private army were too weak. When they learned that they could set up camp and rest, all the soldiers in the private army felt like they were reborn. They trembled and wanted to sit in the snow to rest, but Ren Xiaosu yelled, "Get up and set up tents. You want to rest without a shelter tent? Do you want to die in the snow? In fact, if you don't set up a tent, you can rest in the snow. Just dig a snow pit and bury yourself in it." This is not irony, but if you don't have a tent when trekking in the snow, this is the best way. Many people think that it will be colder to be buried in a snow pit, but in fact, a snow pit can help the human body keep warm because the world outside the snow pit is colder. Ren Xiaosu once heard Zhang Jinglin say that some human tribes further north would build houses made of ice to keep warm in winter. At this time, facing the threat of death, everyone struggled to get up and use the last bit of their strength to set up tents. But some combat teams were miserable. In order to save effort on the way, they had thrown away their tents without knowing when. At this time, it would be better to squeeze into other people's tents. If others don't let them rub the tent, they can only dig snow pits to gamble whether their bodies are strong enough. Ren Xiaosu told Li Qingxiang and the others, "I'll set up the tent. You pick up dry firewood from the ground. If there is no dry firewood, pick up branches. We have to light a fire to warm ourselves up. Everyone should drink a bowl of hot porridge, otherwise no one can bear it." "Okay." Li Qingxiang's face was red from the cold. "Leave it to me. Brothers, follow me and go out to pick up some firewood. The branches broken off the tree will emit a lot of smoke during the burning process, which is choking. But compared with heating, this is a trivial matter." At this moment, the palace set in Ren Xiaosu's mind. Task completed, reward basic level skill learning map. Until this moment, his mission was considered completed. This was probably the most difficult first time to do an ordinary mission. Now he has 2 skill learning maps, but Ren Xiaosu does not intend to use them because there is no target nearby for him to learn. If he meets Hushuo again, he can try it. Although the basic level map cannot learn extraordinary abilities, Hushuo must have many skills that Ren Xiaosu can use. Even if he is lucky, he can probably get something good. But the palace hadn't finished talking yet. It continued, "The side quest is complete. Unlock a new product in the vending machine, seeds." Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up. The side quest was finally completed. He always felt that time was so long, but if he calculated carefully, today was only the 2nd day of the Chinese New Year. He looked into the palace and saw that the vending machine in the palace was standing quietly, and next to the grid of the popping poker, there was a new grid. There were seeds scattered in the grid, but what surprised Ren Xiaosu was that the seeds seemed to be a little different. Could it be that the plants grown from different seeds would be different? The newly unlocked grid was like a candy box in a grocery store. The colorful wrapping paper represented different flavors, and the seeds of different colors represented different uses. He threw in a thank you coin, but saw a thumb-sized red seed fall out from the bottom of the pickup port. Ren Xiaosu took it in his hand, but the palace did not explain what it was. "Do we have to plant it to know?" Ren Xiaosu was puzzled. "The key is that your palace should at least tell us about its growing environment, right? Products produced by the palace must have some magic, but this magic must be tested by yourself. For example, the previous exploding poker was also a bomb use developed by Ren Xiaosu himself. If he hadn't developed it, it would just be an ordinary poker card. What to do? Bury it in the ground and try? What if this seed can sprout and bloom immediately? If the plant grown from the seeds in the winter can immediately bear some fruit or something, wouldn't it be wonderful? Ren Xiaosu has always had great expectations for the side quest rewards given by the palace, even expectations that ignore the laws of nature. Ren Xiaosu said to Chen Wudi, "You stay here to guard the tent. When they come back, they will say that I saw a little wild boar and plan to catch it for dinner. If I come back late, you can improvise on your own." "Okay," Chen Wudi nodded. Ren Xiaosu walked alone into the snow. As he walked, he felt that he might have been a little hasty to let Chen Wudi improvise. He walked further north to find a suitable place to experiment how magical this seed was. He kept walking north until he found a place that was slightly sheltered from the wind. He finally dug up the snow and soil on the surface and buried the red seeds inside. Ren Xiaosu waited patiently, but saw that the seeds he had just buried suddenly sprouted, and thorn-like spikes grew outward. Its thorny branches spread out from the snow until they spread for dozens of meters before gradually stopping. If he lifted the snow, Ren Xiaosu would probably see the red thorny vines spread on the ground like a spider web, waiting for prey. At this moment, this plant was connected to Ren Xiaosu's consciousness like a popping poker. Ren Xiaosu was surprised to find that this plant was extremely aggressive. If Ren Xiaosu was not controlling it, it would attack all creatures passing by. What's going on? Ren Xiaosu thought this thing could bear fruit, but it turned out to be an offensive plant. No, it's more defensive than offensive. If Ren Xiaosu and his friends really live in the mountains and forests in the future, they can plant this thing around them, and they won't have to be afraid of any wild animals. Ren Xiaosu looked at the seeds of other colors in the palace. He didn't know what abilities the other seeds would have, but there must be one that can be eaten. He thought about it and threw in 5 thank you coins again. He exchanged 5 seeds at once, and then buried them one by one in the soil far apart. Chen Wudi sat in the tent and waited. Li Qingxiang asked, "Wudi, where's your master?" Chen Wudi thought for a while and said, "My master went to catch a wild boar and is going to bring it back for us for dinner." Li Qingxiang, "Why hasn't he come back yet?" Chen Wudi thought for a while, maybe the wild boar doesn't agree. Chapter 252 Crazy Plants. Ren Xiaosu squatted in the snow. The wind and snow were so strong that it was scary, but he didn't care because his attention was focused on the seeds he had just planted. After planting the thorn vines, Ren Xiaosu exchanged 5 more seeds. There were more than 10 different kinds of seeds in the vending machine, but after he put in the thank you coins, the vending machine spit out 4 new thorn vine seeds and 1 cocky seed. It seems that this thing is like the popping poker. The more ordinary the seeds are, the easier it is to get. When he exchanged poker cards before, the vending machine spit out the most 3 and 4, and occasionally spit out 1 or 2 5s. As for higher cards, Ren Xiaosu had never seen them. The thorn vines are very aggressive. Ren Xiaosu estimated that even if the extraordinary entered the attack range of the thorn vines, few people would survive, so Ren Xiaosu is quite satisfied with this new product. But what is the use of this cocky seed? After the seeds were buried, the sprouts grew much slower this time. It was not until more than 10 minutes later that the tender green sprouts emerged. The sprouts grew vigorously at a speed visible to the naked eye, but until then, the plant did not show any difference. The next moment, Ren Xiaosu was stunned, because he saw a pocket-like structure on the top of the plant, and then his spirit was connected with the plant. Ren Xiaosu's heart moved, and the pocket-like plant structure quickly spit out a fist-sized potato, like firing a cannonball. This is a potato shooter. What the hell is this? Ren Xiaosu is speechless. At this time, he had already understood the function of this plant through the connection of his spiritual will. This is actually an automatic rifle in the plant world, which can spray 30 potatoes every day. Ren Xiaosu thought this was very boring. Whose automatic rifle is better than this thing, right? Not only is the gun faster than it, but it also has greater lethality. Except that it can automatically alert, it seems to have no other advantages. Moreover, isn't it a waste to spit out the potato? This is all food. Ren Xiaosu suddenly looked at the potato shooter. "Spit it out for me." The potato shooter spit out the remaining 29 potatoes he had hidden underground. Ren Xiaosu smacked his lips and said, "High-speed food production is useful. I'll eat potatoes tonight." The palace probably didn't expect that this attacking plant was used as a food crop by Ren Xiaosu. However, at this moment, there was a creaking sound of snow being squeezed across from him. Ren Xiaosu immediately became alert. Someone was coming from the opposite side. At this time, other regular troops of the Li family had been deployed on the Fengai mountain line, but who would have nothing to do and run to the mountains? Everyone took the main road. Only the strange army of the Shenji camp would travel through mountains and rivers. Is it the Shenji camp that is coming? No, the two sides are not walking in the same direction at all. Then, it's the enemy. Ren Xiaosu quietly retreated. When he stepped on the snow, he stepped on it with his toes, and there was no sound at all. He retreated far and hid behind a big tree. There shouldn't be too many enemies coming. It's very likely that they are just the outpost troops of the other side. Who knows if it's the Qing family or the Yang family? But he saw the 30 people walking cautiously in the snow. Their team was a long row, and some people took turns to break through the snow and move forward, just like a wolf pack. Ren Xiaosu waited for them to enter the attack range of the thorn vines, so that he could also observe the specific effect of the thorn vines. But the other side was smart enough. Ren Xiaosu had just left not long ago, and the snow was not heavy enough to cover his footprints, so when this outpost combat team saw Ren Xiaosu's footprints, they stopped immediately. The whole team immediately divided into a fan shape on the snow so that they could fully control the situation around them. There was someone here just now. Pay attention. Look at the snow. They must have left because they heard our footsteps. Has the plan been exposed? Not sure. Look for the target's traces. There should be only one person on the other side. Ren Xiaosu felt a little regretful. If they just walked a little further, they would be able to step into the attack radius of the thorn vines. You know, the attack radius of the thorn vines is dozens of meters away. However, Ren Xiaosu's eyes suddenly lit up. Although the thorn vines are fixed, the potato shooter can actively attack under his control. Ren Xiaosu wanted to control the potato shooter to shoot and test the power, but found that the potato shooter did not react at all. This is a fake. Why doesn't it spit out potatoes? Oh, that's not right. The potatoes have been put into his backpack. Don't blame the potato shooter. Ren Xiaosu watched from a distance. He had confirmed that the other side was the Qing family's army. Although he was very familiar with Fatty Luo, if they really met on the battlefield, no one would hold back. War is war. What's more, Qing Zhen and Luo Lan are both under house arrest now, and these soldiers have nothing to do with Luo Lan and the others. Suddenly, the Qing troops turned on the flashlights on their automatic rifles, and the beams shone on the snow, following Ren Xiaosu's footprints and locking onto the tree where he was hiding. In the heavy snow, footprints could not be hidden, unless Ren Xiaosu could fly. To be honest, Ren Xiaosu did not expect the Qing troops to be so rigorous and vigilant. The Qing troops looked at each other and said, "There's only one person, confirmed. Don't let him go, lest he report back and expose our whereabouts," the team leader of the combat team said calmly. As long as they were sure that there was only one person on the other side, it would be easy to deal with. Don't shoot yet. There may be troops stationed nearby. Refugees will not appear here. It may be an Ano warrior from the Shenji battalion. The Qing troops carefully analyzed Ren Xiaosu's identity and purpose of his behavior to determine their next action guidelines. They approached this site after receiving intelligence. The intelligence showed that the Shenji battalion disappeared after moving towards this side, so it was expected that the other side would appear in the mountains. As they were talking, someone screwed a silencer onto the gun barrel. As an outpost, they couldn't alert the enemy, so they had to fight quickly and secretly. Forward. The squad leader said, "Combat forward formation." Generally speaking, there are only 3 types of combat formations for outposts. One is the basic forward formation, where all members of the team are arranged in a straight line and move forward. The first person shoots a gun to the front, and the other members of the rear stand guard with guns to the left and right. One is the defensive forward formation, which mainly assigns one combatant to aim at the rear. The combat forward formation is that all members move forward in a staggered manner, with the first, second, and third members shooting a gun to the front, and the second and third combatants are located in staggered positions behind the left and right of the first member, respectively, to provide cover. Chapter 253 Old Acquaintance, Tang Zhou. The Qing army marched forward in a tactical formation, but Ren Xiaosu never came out from behind the tree. He was waiting. There was still a distance of 500 meters from the camp behind him, but Ren Xiaosu didn't think of going back to find reinforcements. After all, there was no one in the entire camp behind him who could be counted on except Chen Wudi. Jiang Wu's students were happy to help him, but the key was that the 8 children were intellectuals, and they might not even be able to carry automatic rifles. Private troops are all such a group of players, can you count on them? But what Ren Xiaosu was waiting for was for the Qing army to move forward a little further. When the Qing combat troops stepped into the range of the thorn vines, Ren Xiaosu did not rush to control the thorn vines to launch an attack, but quietly waited for all the combat teams to come in. Except for the sprouting part of the thorn vines, which was dug up by Ren Xiaosu, the other branches were covered in thick snow. However, when the Qing family's combat troops just stepped into this area, someone found something wrong. Wait, it seems that we stepped on something. Someone squatted down and dug away the snow, revealing the thorns on the ground. This red thorn is a bit strange. I have never seen this kind of plant before. There are more and more strange plants these days, nothing to be surprised about. Can it attack people? A soldier glanced and continued to guard the surroundings. However, the team leader frowned. There is something strange, don't move forward, retreat. Ren Xiaosu was secretly surprised hiding behind a tree a few dozen meters away. He didn't expect that the Qing family's combat troops would be so cautious. This is too cautious, isn't it? It's just a plant in the wild. What are you afraid of? Ren Xiaosu felt a little pity. Seeing the enemy coming to the door, he didn't kill any of them. However, Ren Xiaosu didn't know that this unit was an elite unit sent by Qing Yun to intercept the Shenji camp. It was also famous throughout the Qing family. This was just a scout at the outpost, and the large army behind was taking a short rest. How could a unit that was confident of inflicting heavy damage to the Nano warriors of the Shenji battalion fall into a trap so easily? If Ren Xiaosu hadn't disabled the potato shooter himself, he might have been able to try out the power of the potato shooter now. Suddenly, the team leader of the combat team suddenly said across the air, "Friend, are you from the Li's unit?" Ren Xiaosu was stunned when he heard the voice, Tang Zhou. The other party was also stunned, Ren Xiaosu. It would be fine if he didn't call out, but it turned out to be an acquaintance. Before, Tang Zhou drove an off-road vehicle to send Qingzhen and Luolan back to the 111 fortress. As soon as they returned to the 111 fortress, Qingzhen and Luolan were placed under house arrest, while Tang Zhou was demoted to the front-line troops and reported directly to the Depingxian forward base. After he was assigned to Qing Yun's subordinates, Qing Yun knew very well that he was Luolan's man, so he directly demoted his captain rank to team leader and sent him to this elite unit as a scout. Many of the troops in this army were Qingzhen's former soldiers. Qing Yun said that they were here to intercept the Shenji camp, but the problem was that even if they could intercept the Shenji camp here, how could they retreat after the battle? You have to know that the entire Fengai Mountain, Shuanggong Mountain, and Tantao Mountain are the station positions of the Li family's combat troops. Once the Shenji camp encounters a battle here, the entire Li family will launch a crazy counterattack against this Qing family's troops. They may become heroes in the history of the Qing family, but they will never get out of this mountain range. Therefore, after Qingzhen seized power, he immediately sent Qing Yun's direct troops to the Li family's territory. In fact, everyone did the same thing, exclude dissidents. It's not that this is cruel, but that war is cruel. If the army leader cannot maintain control over the army, then this war cannot be won at all. At this time, Tang Zhou didn't know that Qingzhen had completed the seizure of power. When they came out, Qing Yun didn't even give them satellite phones and communication radios, so when Qingzhen asked you if he could recall this unit, the adjutant said, "It's too late." When they were at the 109th barrier, Ren Xiaosu had a very good relationship with Tang Zhou, and Tang Zhou had helped everyone a lot, so since it was Tang Zhou, the current situation immediately had room for easing. Ren Xiaosu had previously wondered why this combat team was so difficult to deal with, and a little bit of thorns and vines attracted their attention. Now that he thought that they were Luolan and Qingzhen's soldiers, Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt that he could understand them. In his impression, Qingzhen and Luolan's men were all elite soldiers, and none of them were cowards. Ren Xiaosu shouted, "Come over and talk alone." He didn't dare to go over, after all, there was more than just Tang Zhou there. What if other people opened fire? After hearing this, Tang Zhou was about to step over the thorn vines and walk towards Ren Xiaosu. Someone beside him whispered, "Squad leader, you can't go. What if the other party cheats you?" Tang Zhou shook his head, "Don't worry, we are old friends." "Old friends will change," someone reminded anxiously, "don't trust him easily." Tang Zhou smiled, Don't worry, I believe him. Didn't I tell you that when the 113 barrier collapsed, someone saved me and Boss Luo on the road? It was him who saved us. He and Boss Luo are also good friends. I don't know if they are good friends. Everyone around was stunned. This turn of events contained a lot of information. It turned out that the other party had saved Tang Zhou. But the question is, why did the other party appear here? What was he doing squatting in the snow in the middle of the night? Playing in the snow? Tang Zhou carefully avoided the thorn vines and walked towards the big tree where Ren Xiaosu was. Ren Xiaosu sighed that it felt good to be trusted by others. This Tang Zhou actually dared to come here alone. Long time no see, why are you here? Tang Zhou walked behind the tree and saw Ren Xiaosu standing there. He laughed. Is that the uniform of the Shenji camp you are wearing? Ren Xiaosu glanced at him. Sit down and talk. Tang Zhou and Ren Xiaosu sat cross-legged on the snow. Tang Zhou put all the guns aside. Have you joined the Li family? Joining bullshit, Ren Xiaosu said. I fled with the refugees from the 109th barrier, and was forcibly conscripted into the army. Ha ha ha, Tang Zhou laughed. But you are not as miserable as me. I was sent here to die. Sent to die? Ren Xiaosu wondered, what do you mean? Now the army is called by a man named Qing Yun. Commander Qing Zhen and Boss Luo are under house arrest in the villa at the 111th barrier and cannot move. When I came under Qing Yun's command, I was immediately demoted. Moreover, he put many of Commander Qing Zhen's former direct subordinates into this army, so that we can intercept your Shenji camp. Ren Xiaosu said with a strange look on his face, then you have come to the wrong place. This is not the Shenji battalion, but a private army. Chapter 254 Ren Xiaosu's Quadruple Identities. Ren Xiaosu patiently explained to Tang Zhou, I was originally recruited into a private army, but on the way, those bastards from the Shenji camp suddenly stopped us and said they wanted to change into military uniforms. They even drove away our car. Now we have to hike in the mountains and we have to hurry on the road even in such a heavy snow. Ren Xiaosu explained the whole story to Tang Zhou, and Tang Zhou was stunned by what he said. So that's what happened. It seems that our intelligence is wrong. It's too late to chase them now. We have to cross several military areas in the middle, and we can't get through. Why go through? Ren Xiaosu asked puzzledly. Don't you know that even if you really intercepted the Shenji camp, let's not talk about whether you can really beat it. Even if you can beat it, can you go back alive? Tang Zhou said seriously, obeying orders is my duty. Soldiers on the front line cannot have such thoughts. Maybe we really can't go back alive, but as long as it is for victory in the war. Ren Xiaosu sighed. I can't understand your sense of belonging, but the Qing family didn't treat you well either. No, if I fail on the front line, and then say that it was Boss Luo's soldiers who messed up, Boss Luo will be embarrassed. Tang Zhou said, now they are imprisoned in Barrier 111, I have to fight for them. Okay, Ren Xiaosu said regretfully, you and Fatty Luo have a sincere relationship, but you can't defeat the Shenji battalion now, so it's better to withdraw. You go back and talk to the chief officer of the Qing family and tell the follow-up troops not to come to Fengai Mountain, so as not to hurt me. Tang Zhou was stunned for a long time. We can't contact the headquarters now. When we came here, we all expressed our determination to die. We are too embarrassed to go back if the mission is not completed. Ren Xiaosu always felt that if there were more people like Tang Zhou in the Qing family, they would be able to win any battle. Ren Xiaosu asked, how many people are there in your army? More than 300 people, Tang Zhou said. It will be difficult to march in the mountains with more than that. We will be discovered. Ren Xiaosu said unhappily, then what are you talking about the Shenji camp? There are more than 1,000 people in the Shenji camp here. No way. Tang Zhou was stunned for a moment. Didn't they say that the main force of the Shenji camp went to the battlefield on the Pingshan front line of the Yang family? The intelligence we got said that there are only more than 100 people here. This is also one of their plans. I saw the chief of the private army was also surprised by this before. Ren Xiaosu explained, your intelligence must be inaccurate. I have seen them with my own eyes, I am sure. Then it's over. Tang Zhou sighed. The mission cannot be completed. However, when chatting with Tang Zhou, Ren Xiaosu felt a little sad. He was shouting to catch spies every day with the identity of the Special Investigation Bureau, but he suddenly exposed the plan of the Shenji camp. Ren Xiaosu thought, from Li's perspective, this was considered a spy behavior. I didn't expect that at such a young age. I would have to bear so many identities that I shouldn't have to bear. Shenji Battalion, Private Army, Special Investigation Department, Qing's spy. Ren Xiaosu suddenly said, "Do you trust your combat team?" "Don't worry," Tang Zhou whispered, "these are all our people, not just the combat team, but the entire elite force, except for the chief officer and some adjutants, are our people, and the chief officer was sent here because he was not liked by Qing Yun. The so-called we here should refer to Qingzhen and Luolan." Ren Xiaosu said, "If not, you can hide in the mountains first, and I will take you to fight when I meet Ali's troops that you think you can beat." Tang Zhou's eyes lit up. "Is it okay?" At this time, what Ren Xiaosu was thinking in his heart was, if the Qing family got the news of the Shenji Battalion, could they beat the Shenji Battalion back from the front battlefield to repair it? If the Shenji Battalion was severely damaged and its number was greatly reduced, then he could find an opportunity to collect nanorobots. Ren Xiaosu looked at Tang Zhou. "If I give you a satellite phone, can you contact the headquarters and pass the message back?" Tang Zhou hesitated. "Yes, but we don't have one." Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, "It's okay, I have one." To be precise, it was not Ren Xiaosu who had it, but the 5 officers of the Shenjiang in their team who had it. Ren Xiaosu felt that he was afraid that he would go further and further on the road of collaborating with the enemy. The camp of the private army was still very lively at night. Li Qingzheng and others took a lot of effort to light a bonfire. Although the smoke was heavy at the beginning, it was nothing compared to heating. If no one lit a fire, the whole camp would just get by like this, but after Li Qingzheng and others lit a bonfire, others envied it and also went to light it, and suddenly the whole camp began to gradually brighten. The function of this bonfire is not only to keep warm, but also to heat and burn the steamed buns brought before. If you still eat cold food in this weather, you will be cold from the inside out. When Ren Xiaosu came back, Li Qingzheng and his friends were chatting by the campfire. Li Qingzheng's first reaction when he saw Ren Xiaosu was to ask, "Xiaosu, where's the wild boar? Didn't you catch it?" Wild boar. Ren Xiaosu then remembered the excuse he had asked Chen Wudi to prepare. "Yeah, I didn't catch it. It ran too fast and we didn't dare to chase it too far. Here, have some steamed buns." Li Qingzheng handed Ren Xiaosu a roasted bun. Just now the people from the Shenjiang said that they were going to camp here and wait until the snow stopped before setting off and heading north to Fengai Mountain. "Yet," Ren Xiaosu replied absent-mindedly. What he was thinking about now was how to get the satellite phone in the hands of the Shenjiang. But this thing was not easy to get. The other party treasured the satellite phone so much that they never left it. It seemed that he had to kill the officers of the Shenjiang first. It happened that he had been thinking about the nanorobots on these officers of the Shenjiang for a long time. And Ren Xiaosu always felt that the nanorobots on the regular soldiers of the Shenjiang were more than those on Lin Qi and his friends. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu called several of Zhang Wu's students aside and asked, "What knowledge are you learning now? Have you taught yourself any mechanical knowledge? If I ask you to design a simple outer armor, can you do it?" Ren Xiaosu didn't like to put nanorobots in his body as an auxiliary like the Shenjiang. His own body was strong enough, and he only lacked a defense system. So before, he simply covered his body with nanorobots, and there was no sophisticated structure. Now Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt that he should use the power of knowledge. Did it Zhang Jinglin always say that knowledge can change destiny? The student named Wang Yuqi thought for a while and said, "This is a bit beyond the scope. It involves belt drive, screw drive, chain drive, worm drive, hydraulic drive, pneumatic drive." Ren Xiaosu interrupted, "Don't say I don't understand, I just ask if you can do it." Wang Yuqi said calmly, "Yes." Chapter 255 Hunting Nano Warriors. Ren Xiaosu knew that Wang Yuqi and his classmates were all top students, and they had long since started to learn knowledge beyond the syllabus in order to enter university. However, Ren Xiaosu had always wondered, what could a few high school students do? As a result, Ren Xiaosu now found that he had underestimated Zhang Wu's students. Zhang Wu used his life, dignity, and bottom line to protect them, and they did not embarrass Zhang Wu. Wang Yuqi thought for a while and said, "It is definitely not possible for you to ask us to design something too sophisticated. All we can do is to reduce wind resistance as much as possible and design the mechanical structure of the transmission as much as possible. No need to explain, that's enough." Ren Xiaosu waved his hand and said, "First, design a draft, and then improve it when you have the opportunity to study further in the future. But I don't understand, squad leader, what do you want this thing for? Wang Yuqi raised his doubts. First, we don't have the materials, and secondly, the power source of the outer armor and… Ren Xiaosu waved his hand again. Don't worry about this, there will be. Ren Xiaosu knew very well that the problems raised by Wang Yuqi could actually be solved by nanorbits, but he couldn't tell Wang Yuqi the truth yet. Wang Yuqi and the others stared at Ren Xiaosu blankly. Forget it, no more explanation. They had a vague guess in their hearts. Perhaps this squad leader had found something good again? Was someone going to be tricked again? At this time, when Ren Xiaosu looked at the officers of the Shenji battalion not far away, it was as if he was looking at his brand new outer armor. Ren Xiaosu already had a new plan. If Tang Zhou sent back the news, then there were only a few ways for the Shenji battalion to retreat from the front battlefield. He needed to find out the situation before taking action recently, and he must gather the materials for the outer armor. I don't know how strong Tang Zhou and his men are, but they shouldn't be bad. The heavy snow in the mountains has been falling non-stop. It's not snowing on the lee side, but the entire three-party battlefield has been stopped by the heavy snow. The heavy snow blocked the road and vehicles could not pass. In some places, the snow even went over the soldiers' crotch. This kind of battle can't be fought at all. This snow is a real large-scale lethal weapon. The original stalemate on the battlefield was like the hot barrel of a machine gun after a machine gun was fired, and the snow suddenly cooled the barrel. Ren Xiaosu and his team all hid in their tents. No one wanted to go out in the snow, not even the officers of the Shenji battalion. Only Ren Xiaosu went out at night and came back to sleep in the morning. When he slept, Chen Wudi stayed by his side, and no one could get close to him. In the past 2 days, many people had finished their steamed buns, but Ren Xiaosu would bring back a lot of potatoes every day, sometimes 28, sometimes 29. Anyway, there was food every day. I don't know where Ren Xiaosu dug them from. It must be said that their combat team never seemed to lack food. After Ren Xiaosu woke up, Li Qingxiang asked curiously, Xiaosu, what have you been busy with these 2 days? You go out at night. Ren Xiaosu said tiredly, I dug potatoes for you. We can't just sit there and eat all the food. After saying this, all the soldiers in the team were moved. Squad leader, you are such a good person. Thank you, squad leader. Ren Xiaosu watched the number of his gratitude points jump again, and the day to unlock new weapons was getting closer and closer. In fact, he did not go out to dig potatoes, but he would meet with Tang Zhou every night to discuss the next things. Tang Zhou and his team had a complete battlefield mapping map, which saved Ren Xiaosu a lot of trouble. However, after reading the map, Ren Xiaosu felt that he had to go there in person to be safe. So he visited the best ambush locations for the 2 Shenji battalions during their retreat in the past 2 days. This touched Tang Zhou. Xiaosu, you are a good friend of our Qing family. Ren Xiaosu glanced at Tang Zhou. Tomorrow I will prepare to snatch the satellite phone from you. Do you think Qingzhen and Luolan can turn things around? I like dealing with Luolan. Yes, Tang Zhou suddenly said firmly. Chief Qingzhen and Boss Luo will definitely not be under someone else's control for long. We are all waiting for that day. Fatty Luo will be very touched to hear you say that, Ren Xiaosu said. Meet here again tomorrow night. I will send the satellite phone. The meeting place they chose was farther away than the place where the thorn vines were planted before. Ren Xiaosu was worried that someone would see this scene. Did you say there were 5 nano warriors? Tang Zhou asked, don't you need our assistance? Ren Xiaosu left. No, Chen Wudi is following me. This time Ren Xiaosu didn't plan to let Chen Wudi take action, but he had to explain this to Tang Zhou. After all, 5 nano warriors were not so easy to deal with. Although he had a good relationship with the Qing family now, he still didn't want the Qing family to have a clear judgment of his strength. In the early morning of the next day, Ren Xiaosu walked towards the camp with a rabbit tightly in his arms. Everyone saw Ren Xiaosu's figure from a distance. Someone stood at the door of the barracks and said in surprise, where did you catch this rabbit? It's so big. The individual rations brought by several officers of the Shenji battalion were a bit insufficient, and eating individual rations every day would not have the real smell of barbecue. So when these officers saw the rabbit in Ren Xiaosu's arms, their eyes were straight. However, at this moment, the huge rabbit in Ren Xiaosu's arms suddenly struggled, and Ren Xiaosu seemed to be overwhelmed and sat down on the snow, and the rabbit jumped out. The officer of the Shenjiang was immediately anxious. "Why don't you hold tighter?" Ren Xiaosu said anxiously. "Catch it back quickly. Otherwise, it's a waste of time." The 5 officers of the Shenjiang didn't think too much when they heard this, and immediately activated the nanorobots in their bodies to chase after it. The burst speed of these 5 people was now faster than that rabbit. Ren Xiaosu squinted and watched from behind. There were indeed more nanorobots in the bodies of these regular soldiers. Lin Qi's speed was not that fast. A large group of people in the camp waded through the snow to chase the rabbit, but at this moment, something strange happened. Suddenly, a large red thorn net suddenly closed where the 5 officers were, and it actually wrapped the 5 officers directly inside. The thorns on the thorn vines pierced their skin in an instant, but what was even more terrifying was that the blood of those officers was sucked into the branches by the thorns of the thorn vines, as if it was sucked by someone. The officers of the Shenji battalion struggled to tear the entire red net apart. 5 people fell out of the net and gasped violently. However, before they could recover from the shock, new red thorns appeared on the ground again. The red thorns seemed endless. Everyone who followed them retreated in fear. This scene was too terrifying. Chapter 256 Cooperation towards win-win situation. The red thorn vines were hideous and terrifying. The nano-warriors of the Shenji camp relied on the power of their nano-robots to tear the terrifying plants apart. However, after each tear, new thorns would come back, and the sharp thorns on the thorns would nail into their bodies, trying to extract every drop of blood from the officers of the Shenji camp. But the most frightening thing about these thorn vines was the endless feeling, as if they would never be torn to the end. None of the private soldiers chasing behind dared to step forward to help. The moment they saw the thorns, they began to retreat together, and some people even accidentally fell in the snow. Only Ren Xiaosu knew best that the ability of these thorn vines was not as strong as imagined. Although they had been weakening the officers of the Shenji camp by extracting blood, their branches were not endless. At this time, the branches of a thorn vine had been completely torn off. It was just that Ren Xiaosu had planted 4 in the same place in a row just to be on the safe side. The officers of the Shenji camp felt their strength was draining away, and they screamed to the private soldiers, "Come and save me." But who dared to step forward from this mob of private soldiers? They didn't even have time to run. Ren Xiaosu was slightly relieved when he saw this. What he was most worried about was that someone from the private army would come forward to save people. After all, no matter how powerful the 4 thorn vines were, they couldn't withstand nearly 1,000 people tearing them apart. It could only be blamed on the officers of the Shenji camp who had never helped the private troops along the way, so when everyone saw them in trouble, they only had the idea of watching, and some even gloated over their misfortune in addition to fear. Ren Xiaosu mixed in the crowd and watched coldly. This time, he also roughly tested the power of the thorn vines. He believed that if the thorn vines faced a nano-warrior alone, they would definitely win. Although the thorn vines could not move and could only be used as traps, one thank you coin could have the opportunity to trap a nano-warrior, which was a high cost effectiveness. The only thing he was not sure about was that Ren Xiaosu didn't know if there were more powerful nano-warriors in the Li Corporation. Yes, there must be. But in terms of military rank, the ranks of these 5 people were not high, so there must be more powerful nano-warriors in the Li Corporation. At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly shouted in a low voice in the crowd, "Run, go back to the camp and hide." His voice was not loud, but this shout of run seemed to have magic, making everyone run towards the camp desperately, as if hiding in the camp would be safe. Ren Xiaosu did not stay. At night, he had plenty of time to collect the nano-robots. There was no need to rush at this time. It would be bad if he was exposed again. The GPS and satellite phone were also carried by the officers of the Shenjiang at this time. When he collected the nano-robots, he could take them away and give them to Tangzhou. Back in the tent, Li Qingshan said in shock, "Xiaosu, what is that? It looks so scary." Ren Xiaosu panted and said, "Yes, I was scared to death." "Do you think those officers of the Shenji camp can survive?" Li Qingshan asked. "It's probably very difficult. When I escaped back, I looked back and saw that their strength had decreased a lot. It was impossible for them to break free from the thorns," said a team member. At this time, what everyone really cared about was not whether the officers of the Shenji camp could survive. In other words, most people in the camp hoped that the officers of the Shenji camp would really die in the hands of thorns and vines. The relationship between them was not very good, and if those officers were allowed to survive, they would definitely ask them why they did not save them. The people in the entire camp hid their heads in the sand like ostriches. At night, soldiers from the reinforced company went to and fro between the tents, and they wanted to collude with everyone. A soldier from the reinforced company came to Ren Xiaosu's tent and threatened. The officer from the Shenji battalion went to chase a rabbit. He was so fast that we couldn't catch up. By the time we arrived, it was too late. This group of people were afraid that they would be punished by Li for this matter, so they chose to conduct a grand collusion operation with nearly 1,000 people. Not only that, the soldiers from the reinforced company also threatened, if this matter is spread out, no one present will have a good ending, so if you are smart, you'd better shut up. Ren Xiaosu almost wanted to say thank you to these soldiers from the reinforced company. The officer from the Shenji battalion who knew Ren Xiaosu's identity as a special detective was already dead, and these soldiers from the reinforced company were unaware of it, otherwise they would not dare to threaten Ren Xiaosu like this. That night, Ren Xiaosu secretly went to the place where the soldiers from the Shenji battalion died. This time, the number of nanorbits he harvested was far beyond his imagination. The number of nanorbits from just 5 people was enough for him to complete the outer armor of his 2 arms. Sure enough, the regular army of the Shenji battalion was not comparable to Lin Qi's cannon fodder. Ren Xiaosu took the satellite phone and walked towards the north. Tang Zhou was already waiting there. The first thing Ren Xiaosu did when he saw Tang Zhou was to tell him, after you contact your headquarters, remember to only talk about the Shenji camp, and don't mention me. What if your Qing family also has Li spies? Then I'm in trouble. Yet, Tang Zhou nodded happily. I will definitely not reveal your information. I still understand the principle of protecting our own spies. Ren Xiaosu always felt that there was something wrong with this. How did he become a spy of the Qing family? He reminded again, remember to tell your headquarters not to kill all the people in the Shenji camp, otherwise our cooperation will end here. Ren Xiaosu alone can't do anything to the Shenji camp. After all, the other side has about 1,000 people. So if he wants to capture more nano warriors, he must rely on the power of the Qing family to defeat the entire Shenji camp first. This is the purpose of his cooperation with Tang Zhou. As for whether they can cooperate in the future, it depends on how well the Qing family cooperates this time. At this time, Tang Zhou hesitated and said, you also know that I was exiled. Qing Yu may not listen to me. He would rather kill all the people in the Shenji battalion. This is a great achievement, and it is a good opportunity for him to establish prestige in the army. Then can we trick him? Ren Xiaosu asked. We can tell him that there are only 100 people in the Shenji battalion. Tang Zhou shook his head. If that's the case, there must be soldiers in the Qing army who died tragically. The soldiers are innocent. If Boss Luo and Chief Qingzhen know about this, they will definitely not forgive me. Ren Xiaosu pondered after hearing this and said, then tell me where the Shenji battalion died in battle. Tang Zhou was stunned for a moment. Why? Ren Xiaosu pondered for a moment and said, we are comrades in arms. I want to go and mourn them. Tang Zhou. Send the comrades first, and then go to mourn. What kind of operation is this? Tang Zhou didn't believe what Ren Xiaosu said at all. He was not stupid. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Ambush of the Shenji Camp. The two sides agreed to meet the next day and then separated. After the incident of killing people with thorns and vines in the private army camp, some people did not even dare to go out of the tent. Even if they were hungry, they were unwilling to go out to find food. At this time, the thick snow covered the entire ground. They had no idea where there were thorns and vines buried in the snow. If they took a wrong step, they would die without a burial place. However, this was exactly what Ren Xiaosu expected, which made it easier for him to act alone. When Ren Xiaosu went to see Tang Zhou that night, as soon as the two sides met, Tang Zhou said ecstatically, Boss Luo and Commander Qingzhen have successfully seized power in the army. Now they have the final say in the army. Ren Xiaosu was puzzled. Didn't you say that they were under house arrest in Barrier 111? It's like this. Tang Zhou explained. Boss Luo and others were sent to the front line as military advisors, and then they directly killed Qing Yun and became the current military chiefs of the Qing front line. Ren Xiaosu was shocked. Is this possible? Is there no one to control them? If someone else is replaced at this time, I'm afraid the Qing family will really not be able to fight the battle. Tang Zhou analyzed. If the Yang and Li families take advantage of the situation, the entire Qing family will be in danger. Okay, Ren Xiaosu felt that Qing Zhen probably saw this opportunity and dared to act recklessly, but this Qing Zhen is really cruel. Tang Zhou said, Commander Qing Zhen has agreed to cooperate with you, and their combat sequence has entered the ambush site to wait for the Shenji camp, and Commander Qing Zhen said that he will not wipe out the Shenji camp, and he wishes us a smooth cooperation. Ren Xiaosu nodded. This Qing Zhen was still reliable. At least he was better than the Qing Yun that Tang Zhou mentioned. However, he said, don't be so empty. Don't you Qing family give us some benefits? Tang Zhou was stunned for a moment. No, I didn't mention this, but I can tell Commander Qing Zhen that he has never been a stingy person. That's more like it, Ren Xiaosu smiled. But Tang Zhou suddenly wondered, why don't you let us finish the fight against the Shenji camp? After all, you don't have any feelings for them, and you were also forcibly conscripted. Ren Xiaosu patiently explained, I want to help Yang collect some samples of Li's nanorobots. Tang Zhou seemed to have figured something out, so he smiled ambiguously. I see, when I left the 109th barrier, I felt that you and Yang Xiaojun had a special relationship. She was still carrying you on her back at the time. So why didn't you go to Yang's? Although you were conscripted before, you still had a chance to leave. We got intelligence that Li's control was not so strict at the beginning. Ren Xiaosu didn't explain too much, and let Tang Zhou guess whatever he wanted. Tang Zhou didn't know that he didn't go because he didn't know where the 88th barrier was. The next day was the time when the Shenji camp planned to launch a surprise attack on the Qing family. Even though the road was blocked by heavy snow, the Shenji camp was still on the road without stopping. In the eyes of the Shenji camp, they were here for a surprise attack. Outsiders don't know how strong the mobility of the Shenji battalion is, nor do they know how strong the physical fitness of the Shenji battalion is with the blessing of nanorobots. So no one can guess that they can continue to travel in the snow, so this is their best time. The major of the Shenji battalion led the team to break the snow while looking at the GPS and said, it will take half a day to reach the Qing family's baggage camp. Everyone is very careful. We will evacuate immediately after destroying the Qing family's baggage and granary, and wait for recharge before launching a sneak attack on their other combat troops. However, as soon as the voice fell, there was a sudden roar in the distance. The major of the Shenji battalion was stunned for a moment, and then immediately shouted, retreat. Avoid artillery fire. It must be said that the major of the Shenji battalion is extremely experienced in combat. It only took him a moment to realize that they had encountered an ambush by the Qing family, and the roar was the sound of Qing's artillery fire. Moreover, the first thing he shouted was to retreat, not lie down, because the Shenji battalion was highly mobile. If they retreated immediately, they would have a chance to escape the range of the artillery fire, but if they lay down, they would just wait for death. Qing was well prepared. How could he escape just by lying down? But he was still too late. The sound of artillery fire in the distance was like firecrackers, stirring in the mountains and fields one after another. The snow around the Shenji battalion soldiers kept cracking, and shells covered them like plowing the land. Qing Zhen didn't even plan to give the Shenji battalion soldiers a chance to get close. The Shenji battalion soldiers were flying in the mountains and fields. Some of them were even so fast that they could avoid the trajectory of the shells in advance and avoid the maximum killing radius of the howitzers. But there were too many howitzers. In just one round of artillery fire, more than half of the soldiers in the Shenji battalion were killed or injured. Having nanorobots doesn't mean they can withstand the shells. This howitzer with a charge of 3.5 kilograms of black explosive and a diameter of 120 millimeters can destroy all lives within a diameter of 8 meters in just a moment. Moreover, all the soldiers of the Shenjiang within a radius of 25 meters from the landing point of this howitzer will be hit by the huge explosive force and broken shrapnel, forming effective casualties. God has never given humans weapons, but humans have created a sword that can kill gods. Fortunately, the major of the Shenjiang has not died, but there is only despair in his heart. No matter how well trained he is, he can't resist the Qing family's preparation. But the major of the Shenjiang can't figure out why the Qing family ambushed here so early. They were obviously cautious enough. At first, they pretended to go to the direction of Yang's position, and then secretly changed their route, and even exchanged clothes and vehicles with private troops. After changing their identities, they did not have any intersection with any friendly troops, but in the end, an accident still happened. Where did the news leak out? Seeing that there were fewer and fewer soldiers alive around him, the major of the Shenjiang knew that he was finished. Even his identity as a member of the Li family could not protect him from this loss. At this time, Qing Zhen stood in front of the Qing family's position and looked calmly in the direction of the Shenjiang. He waved his hand and said, "Okay, stop." The soldiers next to him did not ask much. It was clearly the time to pursue the victory. Moreover, Qing Zhen had specifically asked them to replace the 152mm caliber howitzer with a 120mm caliber. It seemed like he was showing mercy, but the soldiers who had followed Qing Zhen would not question Qing Zhen's decision. It's just that everyone didn't understand how Qing Zhen knew that the Shenjiang would come. Could it be that Qing Zhen's spies had infiltrated a Li family? Even the most mysterious Shenjiang was known to have its whereabouts. This was too scary. Suddenly, Qing Zhen laughed and said, "I guess the Li family hasn't fought a war for too many years. They have a sharp weapon in their hands but don't know how to use it. They really played a good hand badly." Chapter 258 Find the Spy Within 3 days. The soldiers of the Qing family were all excited because they had just defeated the legendary Li family's Shenjiang. However, Qing Zhen immediately discovered in this ambush that the Nano warriors were not that weak. If the news had not come in time, I am afraid that Li would really cause them a lot of trouble. Qing Zhen did not underestimate the Nano warriors of the Shenjiang, but took them very seriously. A trusted officer of Qing Zhen nearby asked curiously, "You mean, Nano warriors should not be used like this?" Qing Zhen said, "If these Nano warriors were given to me, I would split them up and use them separately. Each combat team would infiltrate through the mountains and fields. As long as the intelligence personnel ambushed in the Li family fully cooperated, the decapitation operation would be easy." The trusted officer nodded and said, "I see, you are still wise, sir." Qing Zhen looked at him calmly. "I am telling you this not to ask you to flatter me, but to ask you to arrange more people to protect me." Ah! The trusted officer was stunned for a moment, and did not react to why Qing Zhen said this. Qing Zhen sighed and said, "The Nano warriors of the Yang Consortium may be coming soon. They are much smarter than the Li Consortium. Strengthen the defense force immediately." At this time, Qing Zhen looked at the distant snowfield that had just been plowed by the artillery fire. He suddenly wondered, why is he everywhere? The soldiers beside him were even more confused. Who is the commander talking about? The atmosphere in the Li Consortium's headquarters was extremely depressing. A middle-aged general sat at the end of the long table in the command room. His face was cold and gloomy. There were people sitting around the long table, but no one spoke. "The Shenji battalion suffered heavy losses," said the middle-aged general. "I just want to know why the Qing family knew about the actions of our Shenji battalion in advance." Still no one spoke. In fact, many people were also puzzled by this matter. The Shenji battalion had to feed back information to the headquarters every day, such as the execution of their combat plan, such as their marching position. Everything was going well before, but an accident happened at the position closest to the Qing family. According to the description of the officers of the Shenji battalion, the Qing family obviously knew the direction of the Shenji battalion's march, so they ambushed in advance, otherwise they would not have caused such a large number of casualties in the Shenji battalion. In recent years, the Li family has been keeping a low profile. Now that the war has suddenly started, everyone has been looking forward to the performance of the Shenjiang. As a result, the Shenjiang is almost destroyed before the war even starts. Why? What went wrong? Exclamation mark. The middle-aged general looked at Shuo on his left-hand side. There must be a spy leaking the secrets. As the director of the Special Investigation Department, you failed to find the spy in time. You should bear the main responsibility for this matter. But now is not the time to punish you. You must reorganize the work of the Special Investigation Department and make up for your mistakes. Hu Shuo did not speak, but just looked at the table in front of him calmly. To be honest, he was also confused. Although he had ulterior motives in the Li family, the work of the Special Investigation Department was always running normally. Spy warfare during war is the most critical, and intelligence can sometimes even determine the outcome of a battle. Hu Shuo has cleared a lot of spies these days, but he also left some spies to pave the way for future plans. Leaving them does not mean leaving them alone. These spies are still under the surveillance of his Special Investigation Department and are kept for great use. However, these spies do not have anyone who can access the secrets of the Shenjiang. Suddenly someone said, the private troops who exchanged uniforms and vehicles with the Shenji camp have not arrived at the designated strategic location. I suspect something may have gone wrong with them. The middle-aged general frowned. Why didn't you report this important matter earlier? Before, an officer from the Shenji camp was traveling with them and reported their whereabouts every day, but the contact was suddenly cut off yesterday, the officer said. Find this private force immediately and confirm their whereabouts within 3 days, the middle-aged general said. Yes, the officer responded. The middle-aged general said, dismiss the meeting. The strategic deployment must be in place as soon as possible. The news of the heavy losses in the Shenji camp will probably reach the Yang family soon. We have to prepare for the counterattack of the Qing and Yang families. General Hu, used A. Everyone else dispersed, but Hu Shuo was still sitting there motionless. The middle-aged general said, the leak of secrets in the Shenji camp is of great importance. The spy is very likely in a high position. I'll give you 3 days. You must find out who this spy is. Hu Shuo raised his eyes and said, okay. The middle-aged general did not say in the meeting just now that he suspected this spy was among the people who had just attended the meeting. The reason why he didn't move Hu Shuo now was, first, as the director of the Special Investigation Department, Hu Shuo had worked for the Li family for decades with few mistakes. He had both merits and hard work. Second, this war could not be separated from Hu Shuo. If the director of the Special Investigation Department was replaced at this time, there would probably be a big mess later. But this middle-aged general may not have thought that the chaos itself was caused by Hu Shuo. 2 days later, Ren Xiaosu, the instigator, was lying in ambush in the snow, and next to him was a dirt road that Li had temporarily built before the war. After repelling the Shenji camp, Qing Zhen not only passed the news to Tang Zhou, but also informed the route of the Shenji camp's retreat. Based on this information, Ren Xiaosu judged that the Shenji camp was likely to pass by the road in front of him. The Shenji camp had suffered huge losses and would definitely retreat to the forward base in the rear for repairs, and this was Ren Xiaosu's opportunity. He did not call Tang Zhou to act together. On the one hand, Tang Zhou and his men had too many people and were easy to expose their targets. On the other hand, Ren Xiaosu did not want Tang Zhou to know his methods and the real purpose of leaving the Shenji camp. Ren Xiaosu calculated that the Shenji camp was already in a miserable state now, and the trump card he left behind should be enough to deal with the remaining remnants, right? Suddenly, he heard the sound of someone stepping on the snow, and Ren Xiaosu was shocked. Here they come. Ren Xiaosu hid in the thick snow beside the road, almost holding his breath. He left a small hole in the snow to observe the outside world, but the next moment when Ren Xiaosu saw the Shenjiang soldiers, he was shocked. He saw 2 Shenjiang soldiers limping towards his ambush position. Ren Xiaosu felt terrible at that time. He asked Qing Zhen to leave some Shenjiang soldiers, but Qing Zhen left him too? Ren Xiaosu was a little confused at that time. Why didn't you just leave one? Are you deliberately disgusting? Huh? Ren Xiaosu has been lying in the snow for the past 2 days. There are probably not many people in the world who have his perseverance. But now Ren Xiaosu found that he had been lying in the snow for 2 days in vain? No. Ren Xiaosu felt that there must be a new accident. Qing Zhen couldn't have left only 2 Shenjiang soldiers. Recommend a new book, Hong Huang In. I stayed in a special inn when I went out, but I was sold without paying attention? Exclamation mark. Chapter 259 The Mysterious Sniper. Ren Xiaosu carefully recalled the news Tang Zhou told him. The day before yesterday, Tang Zhou said that the Qing family had already repelled the Shenji battalion, but he did not say how many people were repelled. But now everyone is cooperating so happily, Qing Zhen and Tang Zhou will not play tricks on him, and although Qing Zhen is arrogant, he has always been reliable and trustworthy in doing things. There must be something wrong during this period. Ren Xiaosu observed the 2 Nano warriors who were approaching, and he suddenly found that the other party looked panicked, which was unreasonable. The location they are in now is already the hinterland of the Li family. There are different Li family combat troops every 10 kilometers, so the Shenji battalion should not be very scared to retreat here. Did they encounter other enemies on the way? Wait, it can't be Li Shenton, right? Ren Xiaosu knew that Li Shenton disappeared directly with a combat brigade, and Li Shenton had a grudge against the Li family. Maybe he really brought a combat brigade to the battlefield and sniped the Shenji battalion in the rear. When the two wounded soldiers of the Shenji camp walked into the thorn vines, Ren Xiaosu controlled the thorn vines to tightly wrap them up. The two wounded soldiers of the Shenji camp were already defeated and had no strength to struggle. After Ren Xiaosu confirmed that there was no one else around, he jumped out of the snow. The two Shenji camp officers were terrified to find that someone had actually come out of the snow. The terrifying thorn vine seemed to be controlled by someone. Ren Xiaosu did not kill them immediately, but came to them and frowned and asked, "Where are the others in your Shenji camp?" The Shenji camp officer gritted his teeth and said, "Who are you? Who are you? Why are you wearing the uniform of our Shenji camp?" Ren Xiaosu took a look at his uniform and said unhappily, "Didn't you exchange it for us?" At this time, the two Shenji camp officers were stunned. What does it mean? Wait, they suddenly remembered this matter. It turned out that the boy in front of them was a soldier in the private army. But why is there such a person who can control terrifying plants in this private army? It must be a spy. This boy must be a spy. The two Shenjiang officers suddenly realized something, and one of them roared, "You exposed our whereabouts, so the Qing family prepared to ambush us." Ahem, what are you talking about? Why don't I understand? Ren Xiaosu asked, "Let me ask another question. Where are the other people in your Shenjiang? Were they ambushed by a strange army? If no one answers, I will ask again later. They are more than 20 kilometers behind us. If you have the guts, go and see for yourself," the Shenjiang officer said fiercely. Ren Xiaosu said, "Oh," and decisively killed them with thorny vines. He was a little confused as to why the two men acted alone. He was afraid that he would only know if he walked further north. He took the nanorbits from the two men, and instantly touched the others' pockets for valuables, and threw the guns into the storage space. A lot of food was consumed in the outpost some time ago, and his storage space was a little empty. But Ren Xiaosu was not in a hurry to leave. He dug in the snow for a long time before finding a dozen playing cards that he had hidden in the snow early. At first, he thought that many Shenjiang would pass by here, so he even used the exploding poker. But he didn't expect that it was all a waste of feelings, and he also wasted a lot of his gratitude points to plant more than 10 thorn vines. Exploding poker can be recycled, but the thorn vines can't be pulled out after they are planted. After finding all the exploding pokers, Ren Xiaosu walked towards the north. Now he was still in Tantao Mountain. Going north was the territory of Fengai Mountain. It was not difficult for him to wade through the snow, but he had to be careful not to expose himself. It was morning when he set out, and it was afternoon when Ren Xiaosu arrived at Fengai Mountain. However, just after he climbed over a small hill, Ren Xiaosu was stunned. He saw an officer of Shenjiang lying in front of him, and his blood dyed a large area of snow pink. The blood didn't flow out, but splashed out. At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly understood what was weird. The officers of Shenjiang encountered snipers during their retreat. Only the two people he saw just now survived in the entire Shenjiang. Everyone else was dead. Before the two Shenjiang officers died, they wanted to trick him, the spy, into the battlefield where snipers were lying in wait. Because Ren Xiaosu was wearing the uniform of the Shenjiang, he would also become a target of snipers. The Shenjiang officers were quite tough. The first thing they thought of before they died was not to beg for mercy, but to lure Ren Xiaosu here to die. But the sniper should have left. The time Ren Xiaosu had just stood in the snow and thought was definitely enough for an excellent sniper to shoot him dead, but no bullets arrived after such a long time. Moreover, it should have been a long time since the sniper's sniping operation. There was no reason for the sniper to stay here all the time. His mission to kill the Shenjiang was completed. But why did an unknown sniper suddenly appear here? Was he from the Qing family? It shouldn't be. The only people from the Qing family behind the battlefield were Tang Zhou and his men, and this had been confirmed by Tang Zhou. Who else could it be? The Yang family. Ren Xiaosu searched for a long time in the snow, but when he found the sniper bullet, he was a little disappointed. It was not the silver-gray bullet of the thugs, and there was no special pattern on the bullets carried by the thugs. Of course, this is normal. There must be a lot of combat troops from the entire Yang family to the front line, and there must be a lot of snipers. Yang Xiaojun is a direct descendant of the consortium and has just returned to the consortium for repairs. How could he return to the battlefield so quickly? Yang Xiaojun should be at the 88th barrier now. Ren Xiaosu searched for the traces of the officers of the Shenjiang all the way. Every time he found one, he collected a little more nanorobots. This time is a real big harvest. Seeing that his outer armor is almost complete. However, at this moment, before he found all the bodies of the officers of the Shenjiang, he heard the sound of engines coming from far away on the mountain road in the south. Ren Xiaosu frowned. The people going north at this time must be Li's troops. They must have seen the thorn vines and the 2 dead officers of the Shenjiang. Ren Xiaosu immediately put away his greed and ran to the snowy mountains. There would be many opportunities to collect nanorobots in the future, but if he was exposed, it would be a big trouble. One of Ren Xiaosu's greatest strengths is that he can always keep his sanity in the face of huge temptations, such as when he decisively put down the golden Jingshan. This ambush on the Shenjiang officer was smoother than Ren Xiaosu imagined. He didn't even have to work hard. The mysterious sniper helped him eliminate 99% of the enemies. But this mysterious sniper also made the situation suddenly weird. Chapter 260 Special Investigation Division investigates a case. Ren Xiaosu made a rough estimate on the way to the mountain. He had only had time to collect nanorobots from 14 officers of the Shenjiang. However, these people had more nanorobots than Lin Qi and others. Therefore, if Ren Xiaosu used the outer armor to protect himself, only one leg would not be covered. The rest of the positions were all covered. In battle, he would definitely not stick to the form of the outer armor. He would definitely try his best to protect his vital parts. However, this calculation was also for his convenience to understand the number of nanorobots he had obtained. When escaping from the battlefield, Ren Xiaosu was still thinking that he had seen many dead officers of the Shenjiang lying in the snow on the way to collect nanorobots. There were already dozens of officers of the Shenjiang that he had seen. If it was an ordinary sniper, he would probably not have such lethality, right? Moreover, as long as the sniper fired a shot, the rest of the officers of the Shenjiang would immediately move at high speed. Judging from the speed of the officers of the Shenjiang, it would be impossible for a sharpshooter to kill so many officers of the Shenjiang. Looking at the death of the group of Shenjiang officers, Ren Xiaosu was sure that these people had launched an attack on the sniper's position. They tried to dodge the sniper bullets with speed and tried to find the sniper and kill him. But they failed. The 2 surviving Shenjiang officers were probably wounded, so the others asked them to retreat first, which saved their lives, and the others were all killed. These were Shenjiang soldiers. Even if they were defeated by the Qing family due to tactical mistakes, this was also the Shenjiang that the Li family valued very much. How could a sniper kill hundreds of people halfway? Could it be that the other party also had the same perfect level firearm skills as Yang Xiaojun? But where can there be so many sharpshooters in the world? To be honest, Ren Xiaosu always felt that the sniper was probably Yang Xiaojun, but the evidence told him that he was not. Moreover, there was no reason for Yang Xiaojun to appear here. Ren Xiaosu first went to the potato shooter to ask for today's potatoes, and then returned to the camp. Xiaosu is back. Li Qingxiang took the potato from Ren Xiaosu's arms with a smile. Be careful when cooking. I heard that people in other tents have run out of food. Some people are so hungry that they can't stand it. They are afraid to go out to find food. What did you do early? Ren Xiaosu said, patting the snow on his body. My physical strength and energy have dropped to the lowest point now. I don't have enough physical support to find food. Chen Wudi walked to Ren Xiaosu, helped him to pat off the snow that he couldn't touch, and handed him a piece of hot potato. Master, eat potatoes. Ren Xiaosu glanced at the sky outside. We have been here for 4 days. I'm afraid everyone has nothing to eat except us. If we continue to waste time here, everyone will die. It's not just us, Li Qingxiang sighed. We only have 1,000 people here, and there are probably more than 20,000 private army soldiers starving on the entire battlefield. They are all harmed by the chief of this private army. If everyone had a full stomach, it wouldn't be so hard to bear. Now it's different. Maybe after a heavy snow, there will be thousands of people starving to death. At this moment, the camp suddenly became restless. Ren Xiaosu opened the curtain of the tent and looked out, but because of the obstruction of the tents, he couldn't see what was happening at all. You stay in the tent, I'll go and see, Ren Xiaosu said and walked out. He saw many people in the camp walked out of the tent. It seemed that there was some commotion in the southernmost position behind them. "What's wrong?" someone asked. "I don't know, I just came out when I heard the noise." "Is there a fight over there?" someone said indifferently. "How can they fight when they are so hungry?" Ren Xiaosu ignored them and continued to walk south. When he was about to reach the end of the camp, he saw that there were people other than the private army coming. It was a special combat team, looking for someone to ask something at the edge of the camp. Ren Xiaosu moved closer and heard the other party's words. "Why are you stationed here? Why didn't you arrive at the strategic location at the designated time? Where is the camp commander? Come out and answer the questions." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. The uniforms these people wore were not the style of combat troops, but those of the Special Investigation Division. He quickly realized that they were probably here to investigate the incident related to the Shenji camp. The ambush of the Qing family in the Shenji camp would inevitably cause a series of chain reactions. And the private army had exchanged vehicles and uniforms with the Shenji camp, and would definitely become the primary target of the Special Investigation Division's investigation. After Ren Xiaosu figured it out, he hid in the crowd. He didn't plan to have any intersection with the Special Investigation Division at this time. The company commander of the reinforced company beside Liu Taiyu came over and said, "Our commander is still in a coma. He was kicked unconscious by an officer of the Shenji camp. After waking up, he had a high fever, and it was also the decision of the Shenji camp to station here." The company commander pushed all the responsibility to the Shenji camp in one breath. Anyway, there was no evidence. The man from the Special Investigation Division frowned and said, "Where are the people from the Shenji battalion? Ask them to come out for questioning." When Ren Xiaosu heard this, he felt that the tone of the Special Investigation Division was really arrogant. Shouting at the Shenji battalion was the same as yelling at his subordinates. No wonder no one thought there was anything wrong when he reprimanded others in his capacity as a special investigation officer. But the company commander explained, "The officers from the Shenji battalion insisted on going hunting and chasing rabbits the morning before yesterday, but they were attacked by unknown plants. A total of 5 officers from the Shenji battalion were killed. If you don't believe me, ask other people." The man from the Special Investigation Division looked around with suspicion, and the private army soldiers around them nodded quickly. "We tried to catch up with them but failed. They were already dead when we got there." These people felt guilty for not rescuing someone in danger before, so they had already colluded with each other's statements. The team leader of the Special Investigation Division frowned. "Take me to see the chief officer of your private army, and then to see the place where Shen Jiang died." Ren Xiaosu was not panicked at all at this time. The soldiers of the entire private army were trying to find ways to lie for him, so why should he panic? The commander of the reinforced company led the people of the Special Investigation Division into the camp. The people of the Special Investigation Division first checked Liu Taiyu's condition. The person in charge of the examination nodded to the team leader. "It is true that he has a high fever. It should be caused by inflammation in the body after internal bleeding during the kicking process." The team leader of the Special Investigation Division said to the commander of the reinforced company, "Give me the roster of your private army, and now let's go to the place where the accident happened in Shenjiang." Chapter 261, Adding a New Identity. Arriving at the location where the Shenjiang had an accident, the people from the Special Investigation Division frowned. They looked at the officers from the Shenjiang who had died tragically in the thorns and said, "They came here chasing rabbits, and then were attacked by this strange plant. Originally, they wanted to check the wounds and see if there were any abnormalities. After all, this was the first time that plants attacked humans. At first, they didn't quite believe it. But the moment they saw the thorn vines, they all believed it. The plant looked extremely ferocious, and when they got a little closer, Ren Xiaosu controlled the thorn vines to bar its teeth and claws, which looked very scary. The people from the Special Investigation Division said, "You continue to stay here and are not allowed to act without authorization." After that, they left. In fact, they didn't have any other good ideas. They couldn't interrogate them one by one, and that would be too much work. Moreover, they came here only to find the location. Checking for spies was a matter for later. What they needed to do now was to report the situation back to the Special Investigation Division. Ren Xiaosu watched them leave. Now it seemed that the Li family also knew that there were spies in the army, but they probably hadn't found the main direction of investigation yet. After the Special Investigation Division left, Ren Xiaosu went to meet Tang Zhou as scheduled in the evening. When they arrived, Ren Xiaosu went straight to the point and asked, "Did your Qing family send any snipers?" Tang Zhou was stunned for a moment. "No, and there are none in our army." "That's strange," Ren Xiaosu asked in confusion. "When I went to find the remnants of the Shenji battalion this time, I found that about dozens of them were killed by the same sniper." "That's so exaggerated, there aren't many snipers with this ability." Tang Zhou analyzed. "Your Yang Xiaojun has this ability, is it her?" "Ahem," Ren Xiaosu said, "the bullet didn't come from the thug, so it shouldn't be her." "Does the Yang family have any more powerful snipers?" "No more," Tang Zhou shook his head, but at this time he seemed to remember something. "Hey, no, there was one more than 10 years ago. Your Yang Xiaojun probably learned the gun technique from him, but he should be older now. According to blood relationship, he should be Yang Xiaojun's uncle? His physical fitness is not enough for him to move freely on the battlefield, so I don't think it should be this person. Will other forces also join this war?" Ren Xiaosu asked in confusion. "No way," Tang Zhou thought for a while and said, "It doesn't make sense for other forces to participate in this war. It is difficult for foreign forces to gain any benefits in our southwest. Only the fire company is taking advantage of this time to look for extraordinary people in the name of acquisition. Is there no one to take care of them?" Ren Xiaosu asked. "Yes, the three consortiums in the southwest have reached a consensus that anyone who sees the fire will be killed, but they have now turned to covert work and are still distributing flyers to ordinary people everywhere," Tang Zhou said. "Have they caught any extraordinary people?" Ren Xiaosu is curious. "There are still some. Many extraordinary people have just gained supernatural powers, but their minds have not changed. They want to make money, and the advertisements of Spark Company are their fastest way to make money," Tang Zhou said. "Spark Company wants to catch those who have just awakened but have no combat experience." "Okay," Ren Xiaosu sighed, "there are really fools. But Spark Company will not come to this side of the battlefield. They will only hide in the barrier," Tang Zhou explained. Now, Ren Xiaosu feels more and more that the sniper is likely to be Yang Xiaojun, but the bullets don't match, and the rest of the information seems to point to Yang Xiaojun. There are many snipers, but there are very few snipers in the world who can kill dozens of Shenjiang officers. But why did Yang Xiaojun come to the rear of the battlefield alone? Just to destroy the Shenjiang? At this time, Tang Zhou suddenly said, "Chief Qingjian called me and said that a direct lineage of Qingyun was sent here as an ambassador to the Li family to discuss cooperation. If you are interested, you can defeat them." Ren Xiaosu was silent for a long time. After the Qing family helped him defeat the Shenji camp, was he going to help Qingjian eliminate dissidents again? Ren Xiaosu asked, "Isn't Qingyun dead? Why do you continue to kill these people?" Tang Zhou explained, "After our combat brigade was disbanded, many soldiers were assigned to various units. They were often bullied by Qingyun's direct lineage, and their bullying methods were extremely despicable. So Chief Qingjian didn't want these people to return to the Qing family's territory. Even if you don't kill them, Chief Qingjian will kill them." Ren Xiaosu was puzzled. Then he should just kill them directly. "Isn't it because you want to kill them? This is also your achievement in the Li family. The higher your position, the more benefits it will bring to everyone," Tang Zhou said with a smile. "How many of them are there?" Ren Xiaosu asked. "More than 400 people. What am I going to fight for?" Ren Xiaosu said speechlessly, "I'm going to fight with my head." Tang Zhou suddenly lowered his voice and said, "Commander Qingjian said that if you are willing, he can help you solve your identity." Ren Xiaosu always felt that the battlefield was getting more and more chaotic. What the hell was going on? But it seems that Qingjian already has a spy in a high position. This matter is not as simple as Tang Zhou said. No matter how lax the management of a unit is, it is impossible to buy such a high position with money. Qing must have a very powerful person inside the Li family to dare to make such a boast. Ren Xiaosu asked in confusion, "Aren't you afraid that I will implicate your insider?" Chief Qingjian said that you are much more useful than him now, Tang Zhou said. "Of course, if something really happens here, we will arrange for him to leave Li secretly to avoid any accidents." "Okay then," Ren Xiaosu accepted it reluctantly. Tang Zhou said, "However, his evacuation is also a big problem. Now the Special Investigation Department is strictly investigating spies, and he may not be able to leave." Ren Xiaosu looked strange when he heard this. "Then I will help you deal with this matter." "What?" Tang Zhou was stunned for a moment. You may not believe it, Ren Xiaosu said calmly. I am actually a captain of the Special Investigation Department. Tang Zhou was confused at the time. Aren't you here to help Yang collect non-orbit samples from the Shenjiang? How can you have the identity of an officer of the Special Investigation Department? Exclamation mark. Could it be that Yang has infiltrated the Special Investigation Department? Exclamation mark. Ren Xiaosu explained, I can't explain too much to you, because the situation is a bit complicated now. To be honest, Ren Xiaosu himself felt that he had too many identities, and their origins were very strange. Horizontal ellipsis. Thanks to Black Tiger Forward for becoming a new ally in this book. Chapter 262 Ren Xiaosu's promotion. The Special Investigation Department who found the private army went back to report. On the way back, they heard from others that there was a problem on the front line. The troops retreating from the Shenji battalion were all killed by a sniper on the Fengai mountain line. On the way back, they also saw the bodies of the officers of the Shenji battalion being transported back to the 108th fortress, but this had little to do with them. They were only responsible for finding the private army and completing the mission. The headquarters tents have been moving northward, and it is not a good thing for the generals to stay in the rear all the time. Now, the headquarters is located 30 kilometers behind Tantao Mountain, and it is only about 80 kilometers away from the location of Ren Xiaosu's private army. When they came to the headquarters to find Hu Shuo, they first handed in the roster of the private army, and then reported the current situation of the private army, and expressed doubts about the death of 5 officers of the Shenji battalion at the hands of plants. Hu Shuo was sitting in the tent and flipping through the roster casually. As a result, he saw a familiar name before he turned a few pages. In just this moment, he figured out a lot of things. There was no need to reason or think at all. The name was as conspicuous as the answer. Hu Shuo sighed. It turned out that the Shenjiang and the private army that this guy belonged to had exchanged uniforms and cars. Then they could only blame the Shenjiang for their bad luck. If they exchanged cars with any other private army, such a bad thing would not have happened. At this time, the officer from the Special Investigation Division saw Hu Shuo frowning and asked, "What's wrong, boss? Is there something wrong with this roster?" Hu Shuo came back to his senses and smiled. "No, I was thinking about something else." "Oh," the officer from the Special Investigation Division breathed a sigh of relief. He thought there was some detail that he had not noticed. "Then do you think you should investigate this private army in detail? After all, this private army seems to have some problems." Hu Shuo said seriously, "A private army has almost had its pay withheld, and has no means of communication with the outside world. The problem should not be with them. There are not too many people who know the secrets of the Shenji camp. We still have to investigate from the top." "Yes," the officer from the Special Investigation Division responded, "then we will concentrate our efforts on investigating the spies within the top." "Well," Hu Shuo nodded, "but don't touch Li's people." This set the tone, and all high-level generals other than Li's were thoroughly investigated. Thinking of this, Hu Shuo became melancholy. God knows what kind of trouble Ren Xiaosu will make. At this time, another officer from the Special Investigation Division came in from outside. He came to Hu Shuo and reported in a low voice, "Boss, there is something unusual." "What's unusual?" Hu Shuo was stunned for a moment. An officer from the quartermaster department suddenly helped someone to move around, and seemed to want to promote a private soldier over the rank, the officer from the Special Investigation Division said. Hu Shuo paused. "What's the name of the promoted soldier?" "Ren Xiaosu," the officer from the Special Investigation Division said. "Do you want to check them?" Hu Shuo waved his hands dejectedly. "No, our Special Investigation Division is now investigating the major case of the Shenjiang. Don't worry about such trivial matters. It must be a problem of bribery within the private army. Don't keep spending your energy on such things." The officer from the Special Investigation Division lowered his head. "Yes." After all the officers from the Special Investigation Division left, Hu Shuo almost overturned the table. This was too rampant. Ren Xiaosu was relying on the fact that he would not touch him and was making trouble here. Horizontal ellipsis. Ren Xiaosu's private army was still stationed in the same place, and many people were almost starving to death, but the threat of the thorns and vines outside still made them dare not move. In the evening, someone from the cadre department suddenly came to the camp, cursing as he came. "A group of soldiers from the private army are hiding in the deep mountains and old forests. We have to come over here to point and dismiss an officer." Do the officers of this private army have any conscience? They even dared to sell the communication radio for money. After arriving at the camp, the soldiers of the private army lifted the curtains of the tents and looked at them. Who are you? I'm Tang Wan-A from the cadre department. Come and assemble, said Tang Wan-A from the cadre department. All the soldiers of the private army came to Tang Wan-A with confused faces and lined up. Tang Wan-A said, "Who is Ren Xiaosu?" Ren Xiaosu walked out of the line. "Report to the commander. I am Ren Xiaosu." "Well," Tang Wan-A glanced at Ren Xiaosu, "congratulations, because the commander of the 2nd Iron Battalion, Liu Taiyu, was injured and unconscious. Ren Xiaosu is specially appointed as the acting commander of the 2nd Iron Battalion to lead the troops to complete the combat orders." Ren Xiaosu was excited. "Really, Commander? How could it be false? Come here to sign your appointment and dismissal documents," Tang Wan-A said arrogantly. Ren Xiaosu hurried to sign, and after signing, he was about to go back to the camp. Tang Wan-A suddenly grabbed him. "Aren't you going to celebrate with us?" "Celebrate?" Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. "How to celebrate? Otherwise, I will show you a split." Tang Wan-A was dumbfounded. "Why should I watch you do a split? In fact, this is the military rule of the private army. The promoted officers have to give some benefits to the cadre department, which is considered a celebration." Tang Wan-A knows that someone spent more than 100,000 yuan to promote Ren Xiaosu, which shows that Ren Xiaosu is a fat sheep. Otherwise, why would Tang Wan-A be willing to come here from so far away? His legs are almost broken. Okay. If a promoted officer is not sensible and filial, then there will be no need to think about the next promotion opportunity. Ren Xiaosu certainly knows about this, but he doesn't plan to give a penny to the guy in front of him. Maybe one day he will run away when he finds an opportunity. How can he waste money on such a thing? Tang Wan-A said coldly, "Think it over." Ren Xiaosu pretended to be stupid. "What are you talking about?" If there weren't so many people around him, Ren Xiaosu would have revealed his identity as a special investigation officer to catch Tang Wan-A, the spy. But after thinking about it carefully, he couldn't always cause trouble for Hu Shuo. What if Hu Shuo really got angry? Tang Wan-A took his people away with a sullen face. It was the first time that Li's cadre department had encountered such a young man in all these years. He instructed the people around him, "Put Ren Xiaosu on the blacklist when you go back. Don't even think about getting promoted in his life. Remove him from office after the war." Ren Xiaosu looked at Chen Wudi and asked in a low voice, "Wudi, what are they whispering about?" Chen Wudi lowered his voice and said, "Master, they said they will remove you from office after the war." Ren Xiaosu laughed at the time. As the saying goes, you can tell whether a mule or a horse will do. Li launched the war with mysterious confidence, but ended up with a bunch of cowards under his command. They could never be Qing Zhen's opponent. Add to that the fact that the Yang family was stationing troops on the border and Li Shenton was making trouble internally, and it was hard to say what would happen to the Li family after the war. Moreover, Ren Xiaosu had no intention of staying in the Li family, so there was no question of what would happen after the war. Chapter 263 Leading the team out of trouble. After Tang Wan-A and the others left, Ren Xiaosu looked back at all the people in the private army and said, "I'm lucky enough to be the battalion commander of the 2nd Iron Battalion. There's no need to say those empty words. Some of you may know my ability. I'm the best at surviving in the wilderness. You will never starve to death or die in the hands of plants if you follow me." Everyone looked at each other in bewilderment. Ren Xiaosu made such a boast as soon as he took office? Everyone knew that Ren Xiaosu was just an ordinary soldier before. Now the leap was too big and everyone couldn't accept it. Of course, no one dared to refute it. Everyone still remembered the scene of Ren Xiaosu dragging people in the snow. Everyone had an impression of Ren Xiaosu in their hearts. This is a ruthless person. However, no matter how ruthless he was, they didn't believe what Ren Xiaosu said. Everyone had been hungry for several days, and there was the threat of thorns and vines outside. Some people felt that Ren Xiaosu was asking for trouble when he became the battalion commander at this time. Someone in the reinforced company couldn't help but ask in a cold voice, "Since you said so, we have been hungry for several days. How can you help us find food now? If you can lead us out of here alive and find food, we will trust you." The people in the reinforced company were originally Liu Taiyu's confidants. The sudden change of leadership would definitely make the reinforced company a little uncomfortable. But anyone can be a leader as long as they are capable enough. Someone echoed, yes, now we don't dare to move forward. What if we encounter that plant again? After hearing this, Ren Xiaosu said passionately, since I dare to promise everyone, I can definitely lead everyone out. In this way, I will walk in front and you will follow behind. As long as I am fine, you will be fine behind me, right? Everyone was silent when they heard this. Ren Xiaosu was going to explore the way himself. Some people were immediately moved in their hearts. They didn't expect Ren Xiaosu to be so courageous. If there were really scary plants on the road they were walking on, then Ren Xiaosu, who was walking in front, would definitely be the first to suffer. If Liu Taiyu was awake, he would probably order others to risk their lives to explore the way, and he would definitely not set an example like Ren Xiaosu. Although no one believed that there could be such a good person in this wasteland, this good person was standing in front of them alive. Ren Xiaosu said righteously, everyone, pack your bags and tents quickly. We will set off in an hour. I will go in front and you will follow behind. I will take you to find food. The private troops were all refugees and had no culture. History has long proved that the lower the cultural level, the less likely people are to question the people and things around them. Once they are in a group, they are especially likely to follow blindly. They never thought that this plant would be raised by Ren Xiaosu. If others walked forward, something might really happen, but Ren Xiaosu would be 100% safe. After the team set out, Ren Xiaosu led the team to the north. He avoided all the thorns and vines. Some thorns and vines suddenly emerged from the snow and bared their fangs and claws at Ren Xiaosu, but Ren Xiaosu just stood outside its attack range. In the eyes of the private army soldiers, Ren Xiaosu was like a god. Someone shouted to be careful at the back, and Ren Xiaosu turned around and said to others with a face full of compassion, in order to lead you out of a way to survive, what is my small sacrifice? Ren Xiaosu felt that he was great, and he could lead this private army out of the predicament he set. Someone behind Ren Xiaosu burst into tears at the time. Thank you, Battalion Commander. Thank you, Battalion Commander. Ren Xiaosu continued to walk forward, counting the thank you coins as he walked. Well, he got a few more thank you coins. Dozens of people said thank you, but in the end, only a few were sincere. Someone in the reinforced company whispered, it seems that he is really capable, and it is not bad to follow a good leader in this world. The company commander said calmly, let's see what happens. It is not enough to just lead us out. If he can lead us to find some food, I will obey him. In fact, Ren Xiaosu did not intend to make these people obey him at all. It did not matter whether they obeyed him or not. The most important thing was that they could follow him to the designated location discussed with Tang Zhou. These people behind him were not sincere when they said thank you. He had helped them find a way to sneak into the forward base to eat, but they were sold out in a minute. Chen Wudi was kind and helpful but was called a fool. Ren Xiaosu did not sympathize with these people, nor did he intend to become a real good comrade with them. At this time, they had left the planting area of thorn vines. Ren Xiaosu turned around and said to everyone, the thorns should only grow in a small area. Now we don't have to worry about them. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when they heard this. Someone said, then let's take a rest. As they said that, many people planned to sit directly on the snow. Private troops are so lazy. But Ren Xiaosu continued, you can't rest now. I promised to take you to find food. You have to get through the difficulties first. Besides, I have thought of a good way. When they heard that there was food, everyone was excited. Even the food of the reinforced company had been out of food for a day, and everyone was starving. Ren Xiaosu walked into the mountain. Before he took 2 steps, he saw a tree hole high up in a big tree. He climbed up the tree and reached into the tree hole. Everyone was puzzled about what Ren Xiaosu was doing. As a result, when Ren Xiaosu retracted his hand, a squirrel fled out in a panic, and Ren Xiaosu held a handful of pine nuts and dried fruits that they had never seen before. Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, let's find a tree hole like this. It should be enough for everyone to fill their stomachs first. If you find a cave or a crack in the rock, tell me. There's our dinner for today. What's in the cave? Someone asked curiously. Ren Xiaosu jumped down from the tree and stuffed a pine nut into his mouth while saying, in winter, snakes will start hibernating after storing enough fat. At this time, they have no ability to resist humans, and they especially like to live in groups. If you find a cave, you can basically find a nest of snakes. We will eat roasted snake meat at night. There are especially many snakes, insects and poisonous ants in the southwest region. Ren Xiaosu was particularly vigilant about this when he entered the wilderness before. However, most snakes become delicacies during hibernation, and snakes especially like to live in groups during hibernation. On the one hand, it is to huddle together for warmth, and on the other hand, it is to reduce water loss. 1/3 of snakes that do not huddle together for hibernation cannot survive the winter. So in winter, some brave refugees will go into the mountains to find snake nests. If they find one, it will be a great harvest, and the whole winter will be better. And Ren Xiaosu is the bravest one among this group of refugees. There are only 2 chapters today. Sorry, several books have blocked chapters. I need to spend a lot of time to revise them today. If I revise them quickly, I will make up the 3rd chapter in the evening. Try to do it before 12 o'clock. Sorry. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264 Ren Xiaosu's First Battle. Led by Ren Xiaosu, a large group of private troops swept through the mountains and forests like locusts, and they did not let go of anything edible. During this period, Ren Xiaosu destroyed 3 snake nests and caught more than 200 hibernating snakes. Some of the snakes were particularly fat. Ren Xiaosu led his men to kill them all before they woke up. This time, everyone was convinced. Following the 2nd Battalion commander to have something to eat became almost everyone's belief. Li Qingshan laughed happily and said, "Xiaosu, you have a way. There is no shortage of food wherever you go. In this wilderness, being able to find food wherever you go is a particularly powerful skill." At this time, Ren Xiaosu looked back at the reinforced company. He was stunned for a moment. Hey? Where is Liu Taiyu? Originally, the reinforced company took turns carrying Liu Taiyu, but as they walked, Liu Taiyu disappeared. Li Qingshan whispered, "I just saw it. They secretly threw Liu Taiyu to the side of the road. I guess they think you are more reliable than Liu Taiyu, and they are showing their loyalty." Ren Xiaosu was a little emotional. The former 2nd Battalion commander was thrown away like this. Today, the reinforced company can throw Liu Taiyu away, and tomorrow they can also throw him, Ren Xiaosu. Who dares to accept such loyalty? This incident once again reminded Ren Xiaosu that there are no good people in the 2nd Iron Battalion, so he should not take his position as battalion commander too seriously. The commander of the reinforced company came over and said to Ren Xiaosu with a smile, "Commander, why don't we camp here tonight? I think we have enough food." Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, "Thank you for your hard work, but we have to walk a little further. It's not safe here." "Okay, then I'll shout to everyone to hold on." The commander of the reinforced company left with a smile on his face. Everything is easy to say if there is food. The reason why Ren Xiaosu did not camp here was not because it was unsafe here, but because he had not yet brought his private troops to the designated location. The team continued to move forward. Although they had not eaten anything yet, everyone felt very energetic. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu saw smoke coming out of the valley ahead. He called the commander of the reinforced company and said, "Is it a friendly army ahead? Let's go and take a look. If we meet them, say hello and ask for directions to see if we are going in the right direction, the direction of Fengai Mountain." "Okay," the commander of the reinforced company responded. Ren Xiaosu then whispered to Li Qingshan and Chen Wudi, "You must go to the back of the team later and make sure no one falls behind. If anyone wants to run, treat them as deserters and shoot them on the spot. If a fight breaks out, you should hide aside and not be hit by stray bullets." Li Qingshan was stunned. Ren Xiaosu said this. It was clear that he knew what was in the opposite mountain, and now he was deliberately leading these private soldiers inside. Moreover, Ren Xiaosu was very sure that there would be a fierce battle in a while. What's going on? How did Ren Xiaosu know all this? Li Qingshan suddenly remembered that Ren Xiaosu had been running out during this period. Could it be that something had changed during this period? The private army team walked for half an hour and arrived at the entrance of the valley. The commander of the reinforced company laughed as he walked. "I don't know which army actually went into this mountain valley. Maybe it's a private army like us." Ren Xiaosu laughed and said, "It's probably true. In fact, King Ain's confidants could have taken the open road. As long as they laid down their weapons and negotiated with the Li family, saying that they were here to negotiate, no one would kill them. However, Qing Zhen required that it must be kept secret to prevent third-party spies from knowing the negotiation situation. After all, Qing and the other two families were negotiating at the same time, and it would not be a good thing if either party knew about it. Therefore, this negotiation team could only come here secretly. After arriving at the designated location, Qing Zhen would contact the Li family's top management, and then the Li family's top management would come to the mountain in person for secret negotiations. However, Qing Zhen had no intention of talking to the Li family at all, but wanted to kill King Ain's confidants on the Li family's chassis from the beginning. The team walked into the mountains. The next moment, the commander of the reinforced company was suddenly stunned because he saw the black uniforms of the Qing family. In just a moment, he realized that the other party was not a private army at all. It turned out that it was a force infiltrated by the Qing family. When the Qing family soldier saw the troops and the uniforms of the Shenji camp coming in, his first reaction was to raise his hands high. "We are the Qing family representatives who came to negotiate." Hundreds of people from the Qing family camp behind him also slowly walked over. Ren Xiaosu saw that they had raised their guns at an angle, ready to shoot at any time. However, they were very suspicious. Are there 1,000 soldiers from the Shenji camp in front of them? How did they encounter the main force of the Shenji camp? Ren Xiaosu asked suspiciously, "How do you prove that you are here to negotiate? Why didn't we receive any notice? Our frontline commander Qing Zhen is negotiating with your high-level officials. If you don't believe me, you can ask," said the Qing family soldier. Ren Xiaosu said coldly, "Put down your guns to show your sincerity. Don't worry, our Shenji battalion will not kill unarmed troops." The soldiers on the Qing side looked at each other. The Qing officer gritted his teeth and thought for a long time. To be honest, he didn't expect to encounter the Shenji battalion, and he also knew very well that their 400 people did not have much chance of winning against 1,000 Shenji battalion soldiers. Since they came to negotiate, they can only go back alive if the negotiations go smoothly. At this time, even if they barely win and escape, can they still escape from the Li territory? However, even so, how could a regular army be disarmed by just a few words? Exclamation mark. The atmosphere became more and more solemn. At this time, the captain of the reinforced company was shaking in his calves. Not only the captain of the reinforced company, but the soldiers of the entire private army were almost the same. They didn't expect that their 2nd battalion commander was so bold that he dared to pretend to be the Shenji battalion to persuade them to surrender, although they were wearing the uniform of the Shenji battalion. In the stalemate, Ren Xiaosu suddenly said, "Why don't we both take a step back? In this way, I will hand over the company commander of our reinforced company to you as a hostage to show our sincerity." The company commander of the reinforced company. How did I become sincere? Exclamation mark. Whoever wants to be the sincerity can do it. But before he could react, he was pushed out by Ren Xiaosu, staggered into the Qing camp, and was held at gunpoint by a group of people. He was shocked. Ren Xiaosu said coldly, "If you still think this is not enough, then I suspect that you are not sincere at all, and you are not here to negotiate." At this time, the Qing officer said slowly, "Listen to my orders, put down your weapons." As a result, at the moment when the Qing troops just put down their guns, Ren Xiaosu took out a pistol and killed the Qing officer. The crisp gunshots echoed in the valley, and everyone was stunned. How can he cheat? Ren Xiaosu yelled, "They have no guns. You have done a great job in killing the Qing army. Follow me." The people behind him looked confused. Some of them rushed forward. Although some wanted to run, Li Qingzhang and others were holding guns behind them to supervise the battle. Li Qingzhang raised his gun and grinned, "Let's see who dares to run." A group of people were forced to do something. They all rushed forward with the guns in hand. The battle was a mess. Some people didn't react at all. It was just that Ren Xiaosu rushed forward fearlessly, so they subconsciously rushed forward and opened fire. Seeing this, the people behind Qing immediately pulled out the pistols they had hidden under their armpits. In fact, they were willing to put them down because they still had guns hidden. It was not a real disarmament. Ren Xiaosu, who was rushing in the front, shook his wrist, and a soldier from the reinforced company blocked him. The movement on the wrist was extremely concealed. The whole scene looked like the soldier took the initiative to block the bullet for Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu cried out in pain, "No." At this time, the company commander of the reinforced company was lying on the ground with blood foaming from his mouth. He was the only one who saw Ren Xiaosu's little action. He said indistinctly, "You fucking." Amid a dense gunfire, no one could hear what the company commander was saying. Sorry everyone, the third chapter is a little late today, and I don't know what to say, so I'll ask for a monthly ticket. Chapter 265 Hero. What? A private army wiped out the Qing family's Special Operations Force. A general in the headquarters exclaimed, "You are not kidding, have you confirmed it?" The staff officer in front of the general said, "It is true, it happened yesterday." They sent a soldier named Chen Wudi back to report the news. Our people quickly rushed to the scene to confirm that they killed the Qing family's Special Operations Battalion. We just don't know why the Qing family's troops came to our hinterland, and we don't know how they got in. It was so easy for the enemy to infiltrate us. Why didn't you wait until they reached the entrance of the headquarters before discovering them? The general roared. The staff officer whispered, "We suspect that they are indeed here to behead people, so they deliberately walked through the mountains and did not bring a full-scale combat personnel, just to travel light and reduce the target." "How were they wiped out?" the general calmly asked after calming down his anger. "We recorded the private army's transcript. They said they were the 2nd Iron Battalion. The reason they were able to completely wipe out the enemy this time was because the battalion commander was both wise and brave. He used the uniforms of his own Shenji battalion to bluff the enemy, and then forced the enemy to surrender their weapons and immediately launched a charge," said the staff officer. "Why does it sound so weird?" The general was puzzled. He always felt that there was something strange in it, but he didn't know where it was. "I think it's weird, but the other side knows that they can't beat the Shenji battalion, so it seems to make sense," said the staff officer. "How should we deal with this now?" "How many people died in this private army?" asked the general. 400 people, the same number of deaths as the enemy," said the staff officer. The general sighed. "A private army can actually wipe out the Qing family's Special Operations Battalion, and the number of casualties has not exceeded expectations. This is a great victory. We need such a great victory now." The staff officer immediately understood what the general meant. Everyone was optimistic about the Shenji battalion before, and hoped that the Shenji battalion could win a great victory in the first battle to boost the morale of the army. But the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. The defeat of the Shenji battalion disappointed the senior generals of the Li family. During the combat meetings in the past 2 days, the headquarters seemed to be shrouded in a haze. The combat staff did not even dare to cough loudly, for fear of being reprimanded. Now, a private army has completely wiped out the enemy's Special Operations Battalion. This is great news. At their level, they don't care about the gains and losses of a soldier, but they have to consider the impact of the whole situation. The general said, "Report this matter to the Presidium immediately and apply for commendation for this private army. I will rename this Iron 2nd Battalion as the Hero Battalion. The battalion commander will be officially awarded the rank of Major of Mali's regular army, and they will be equipped with the best equipment." The staff was stunned for a moment. This is to set an example for the whole army. You know, although private troops have military positions, they are never awarded ranks, so the officers of private troops are like workers, and they can buy officials directly. The Li Consortium never regards this private army as their own. But now that he has been officially awarded the rank, it is different. Ren Xiaosu may be transferred to an important position in the Li family's regular army in the future. As for reporting to the Presidium, it is just a procedure. At this time, the Presidium will not interfere with the appointment and removal of an officer at all. As long as it is beneficial to the war, they will not stop it. However, at this time, the general suddenly said, "After equipping this private army, send it to the most difficult position. I have received news that the Qing family changed its commander in the battle, and the person in charge has become Qing Zhen." "What do you mean?" The staff officer was stunned and asked. "This Qing Zhen is an extremely proud person. The Special Operations Battalion was completely wiped out by the private army. It's embarrassing to say it out. How can such a proud person like him tolerate such a failure?" The general tapped his fingers on the table and sneered, "Send this private army to the most difficult position and let Qing Zhen fight to consume his troops." The staff officer understood that the general wanted to use this private army to lure Qing Zhen to fight the most difficult position. This battlefield is like a huge chessboard. Chess players cannot have emotions. So what about the hero battalion? They are just chess pieces. The sacrifice of the hero battalion is the most touching. The staff officer left, and he suddenly thought of a saying, kindness cannot command the army, righteousness cannot manage finances, and the ancients did not deceive me. Tang Wanyi from the cadre department had just returned to the headquarters. He was very angry with Ren Xiaosu, so he came back to prepare to write black materials about Ren Xiaosu, in preparation for a fatal blow to Ren Xiaosu at a critical moment in the future. Haha, you want to stay in the army after offending the people of the cadre department? It's a pipe dream. However, at this moment, the curtain of the tent of the cadre department was lifted, and a combat staff officer came in with a document under his armpit. Where are the people from the cadre department? Tang Wanyi left and smiled. Here. Everyone says that if a staff officer is not a leader, his fart will not make a sound, but now in wartime, these staff officers are the people around the generals. You can't stand anyone who says something bad about you. What if this staff officer is appreciated by the leader? It will be even more powerful. The staff officer was submissive in front of the generals, but he was not so polite to the people in the cadre department. Go, execute this awarding document, change the name of the Private Army Iron 2nd Battalion to the Hero Battalion, and award Ren Xiaosu the rank of Major. Equip them with supplies, and then let them arrive at the combat position at the designated time. Tang Wanyi was confused. What? Ren Xiaosu? Awarding. Tang Wanyi was also an intelligent person. He knew too well what awarding meant. The staff officer glanced at Tang Wanyi. What? Do you have any objections? No, I'll go now. Tang Wanyi felt bitter. He just came back from there. Why did he have to travel through mountains and rivers again? Before leaving, the staff officer said, it seems that you have a grudge with Ren Xiaosu. Let me remind you that his military rank is higher than yours now, and he is also a combat hero that the whole army wants to establish. If you have offended him, it is best to reconcile with him as soon as possible. You know which is more important. Tang Wanyi was thinking in his heart, is this Ren Xiaosu in conflict with his fate? Exclamation mark. That night, Tang Wanyi arrived at the private army camp again. This time, his attitude was much better. He not only brought the rank certificate, but also 5 carts of food supplies and 5 carts of weapons. Not only that, but he also left these carts to Ren Xiaosu and his men, so that they could quickly reach the frontline battlefield. Tang Wanyi looked at Ren Xiaosu and said with a smile, Sir, I was offended by your tone before. You are a generous person. If you are still angry with me, please tell me what I can do to make you calm down. Ren Xiaosu thought for a while and said, how about you do a split for me? Tang Wanyi. Chapter 266 The secret that was covered up. 108th Fortress. Pedestrians on the street are all in a hurry. There is no prosperous scene here for a long time. Instead, everything presents a kind of depressed scene. Some noodle shops on the street closed early. Many people lined up in the jewelry store to buy gold bars, but the price of gold in the fortress is rising. Military vehicles often speed by on the road, as if the atmosphere of war is not strong enough. A curfew has been implemented in the fortress. After 10 o'clock in the evening, all pedestrians on the street are locked up in the order department. They can't even find someone to make concessions. In the past, people in the fortress liked personal connections. If they committed a small crime, they would find an acquaintance and say hello, and everything would be fine. But now it is different. People who are caught in the order department may not be able to get out until the end of the war. Relationships have suddenly stopped working. Before the curfew, a thin girl wearing a baseball cap came to the door of a hardware store. Her hair was not long, only hanging between her chin and shoulders. Her long and beautiful neck was vaguely visible between her hairline. She was wearing a fitted sportswear. When she raised her arms, the sportswear around her waist could still outline her slender waistline. She knocked on the shutter door 6 times in a row, paused for 2 seconds, and then knocked again. The shutter door was lifted up halfway, and the girl bent down and went into the store. The boss in the shop had sparse hair. He smiled and said, "Are you from the north?" "Yes," the girl responded, reporting on the latest situation. "Nothing special. It is said that the Shenji battalion encountered an accident at the Qing family's place. On the way back, they were attacked by a mysterious sniper." The boss was interrupted by the girl before he finished speaking. "Switch, I know about this." The boss was surprised for a moment but did not ask more. "Also, Yesterday a private army wiped out the Qing family's Special Operations Battalion on the Tantao mountain line. This was quite a sensation. After all, everyone knows the combat effectiveness of private troops. Who would have thought that they could beat the Qing family's Special Operations Battalion? There is nothing else. I haven't got the Li family's defense map yet. If I get it, I will send it to you in time. Half of the girl's cheek was hidden in the shadow of the baseball cap. She suddenly said, "You don't need to tell me about the defense map. I won't participate in this war. Now I need you to help me find a boy named Ren Xiaosu." "Okay, I remember," the boss whispered. "Do you have any clues?" The girl thought for a while. "Look for it wherever there is an abnormality." "Abnormal?" the boss said. "There doesn't seem to be anything abnormal recently." "No," the girl seemed to remember something. "Bring me the list of combatants of that private army." The boss was stunned. Did the girl suspect that the boy named Ren Xiaosu was in this private army? Was it because the private army was able to defeat the Special Operations Battalion? Who is that boy? Why was he so valued and looked up to by this girl? At this time, in the Lee's 613 Research Institute, a middle-aged man in a white coat walked out of the laboratory and said, "Bring in a batch of samples." After hearing this, the beautiful secretary immediately called the sample storage room, and the manager of the sample room checked the time when the samples were delivered. He counted 100 bottles of nanororbit samples and sent them over. One of the bottles was also labeled with a note: "After being tested by a person with a synchronization coordination rate of 0, the nanororbit showed abnormalities." On the other side, in the nanororbit recycling factory, several operators were facing the bodies of several nano-warriors, preparing to recycle the nanororbits in these bodies, and then unlock and flash these nanororbits. The huge mechanical arm was controlled to hang above the corpses. The staff had been facing these corpses all day and had long been numb. Outsiders may not know what experiments Lee conducted, but the staff would perform the same recycling operation on a large number of corpses every day. They did not care how these corpses were produced, where they came from, and where they would go. What they cared about was whether there would be too many corpses transported back tonight, affecting their time off work. Of course, the work they did involved top secrets, and after get off work they could only return to the closed dormitory, where there were also a full set of soldiers to watch over them. But this was better than facing corpses. At least when they returned, they could drink free beer and watch videotapes, so life was not particularly boring. At this moment, the mechanical arm hummed and fell vertically towards the corpse lying flat on the stainless steel bed. A needle-like catheter at the front of the mechanical arm pierced the skin. The operator pressed the button on the console, but the next moment he was stunned. Why didn't the recovery succeed? A colleague next to him said calmly, "Maybe something went wrong, try again." Okay, the staff on the console tried the extraction operation again, but there was still no response. "Do you want to use manual operation? Team leader, come and authorize me, I need manual operation authority." A middle-aged man came over and entered a string of passwords on the console. He said, "Try to enable the C2 remote online program." The robotic arm still did not move. The middle-aged man frowned and said, "Is it still not working? Can we only try the C1 remote online program? But I don't have C1 authority, I need to apply to the Presidium." But the operator was suddenly stunned. "Team leader, nothing works, the nanororbit in his body is gone." The troop transport truck rumbled northward on the mountain road. Li Qingzhang sat in the driving seat and shouted with high spirits, "Xiaosu, you are really amazing. How did you become a major in the Li's regular army in the blink of an eye? You have a bright future. You don't know that the status of the Li's regular army and the private army is a world of difference." Ren Xiaosu said with a dark face, "Don't talk nonsense, let me drive for a while." "No, there are soldiers sitting in the back, and there is a cliff next to it." Li Qingzhang decisively refused his battalion commander. He was really afraid of accidents. It was okay to let Ren Xiaosu drive on a flat road, but he really didn't dare to let Ren Xiaosu touch the steering wheel on this mountain road, even if Ren Xiaosu was promoted to battalion commander. Dog lives are important. At this time, the private army had already upgraded its guns to cannons. After the battle, the number of people dropped sharply to 511, but now everyone was equipped with automatic rifles, and the bullets were very sufficient, and there were even 4 heavy machine guns. Although the equipment is still not as good as Li's regular army, and they didn't even have a single RPG rocket, it is much better than other private troops. Li Qingshan touched the steering wheel and said happily, "It wasn't until today that I finally felt a little bit like being a soldier. It's like a dream when I think about it. I didn't expect that we could wipe out Qing's Special Operations Battalion." Chapter 267 Target on the Battlefield. Li Qingshan was happy now. Not only were the equipment updated, but the food was also replenished. The key point was that after Ren Xiaosu was awarded the rank, he was immediately promoted to the commander of the reinforced company, so Li Qingshan now had more soldiers under his command. The previous reinforced company had 180 people, but after this battle, the entire reinforced company was almost destroyed by the Qing family. The main reason was that Ren Xiaosu deliberately arranged the reinforced company to follow him in order to make them the main force in the battle. How could there be no deaths in war? Bullets have no eyes. At this time, everyone found that Ren Xiaosu had also rushed to the front before, but why did everyone around him die? But he was fine. After the war, Ren Xiaosu led everyone to mourn for the dead comrades. Looking very sad, brothers lived great lives and died gloriously. Some people charged into battle bravely, while others died because of saving me. Can the people in the reinforced company risk their lives to save Ren Xiaosu? Others may believe it, but Li Qingshan and Jiang Wu's students don't believe it at all. But no one cared. In this era, the living had no time to grieve for the dead. Besides, there was no emotional foundation. They went north this time because of the command of the headquarters, requiring them to participate in the garrison of the 313 position, where there were a large number of Li's regular troops. The 313 position was an important military strategic location, and usually there was no private army to assist in the defense, but the situation of the hero battalion was a bit special now, and you couldn't tell whether it was a private army. After all, no battalion commander of the private army was officially awarded a rank, and no private army could beat the Qing's regular army. Not to mention private troops, even Li's regular army couldn't beat the Qing's regular army. They passed by 2 forward bases along the way. This time, everyone was treated differently when they entered the base. The chief officer of the forward base greeted them all the way, and there were good dishes prepared when they arrived, which were meat dishes and hard dishes. Not only did they have food to eat when they arrived, but they didn't even have to take steamed buns when they left. The people from the forward base put baskets of steamed buns on the car, and there was also beef jerky. This made Ren Xiaosu feel a little uncomfortable, and there was no room for him to display his intelligence and talent. When the chief officer of the forward base saw them off, he smiled and said, "I wish you all will show the style of my Li army again after you arrive at the 313 position." Just the farewell words took 20 minutes, and the flattery was very obvious. In fact, this is how the Li system is. When a new star rises, those who claim to be smart think that this is a good opportunity for them to climb up the ladder. If they don't climb now, they will wait until others are high up in the future. It will be too late. But after setting off again, even Li Qingshan noticed that something was wrong. "Xiaosu, I found that everyone seemed to know that we were going to the 313 position. Isn't this wrong? The movements of a unit are generally kept secret, even private units. Friendly forces are not allowed to ask the other side's combat plan without authorization. But this time it was very strange, as if someone was deliberately telling everyone, the hero battalion is going to the 313 position." Ren Xiaosu smiled. "Why do you think that is? Are they using us as bait to lure the Qing family?" Li Qingshan asked suspiciously. He guessed so, but he was not sure. After all, his vision was just that of a refugee. He was very keen to guess this. Ren Xiaosu sighed. "This is how the Li family treats their meritorious officials. I think they are being too smart." "Why?" Li Qingshan asked curiously. Chen Wudi suddenly said, "My master means that if even you can guess it, how can others not guess it?" Li Qingshan. However, Ren Xiaosu felt that this was also a clear move. The Li family swaggered and told the Qing family that the private troops that humiliated them were at the 313 position. "Would you come? If you dare not come, it can also be regarded as a blow to the morale of the Qing family. If you come, you will have to fight a tough battle. In fact, their heroic company is just a small chess piece, like a drop in the ocean." Position 313 is located on the sunny slope of Shuanggong Mountain. The Li army on the entire Tantao Mountain Fengai Mountain Shuanggong Mountain line has as many as tens of thousands of people. In the west, the Qingsheng Mountain line facing the Yang family is even more heavily guarded, with tens of thousands of soldiers going to and from the front line every day. What are these 500 people? But war is never as simple as addition and subtraction. What the generals need to do is to make every move well and fight for every inch. But the general who made the decision probably didn't expect that some things were already discussed by Ren Xiaosu and the Qing family. Li Qingshan was already worried at this time, but Ren Xiaosu was not worried at all, as if he was going on vacation in the north. Li Qingshan glanced at Ren Xiaosu. Xiaosu, aren't you worried? Chen Wudi corrected, call the battalion commander. Li Qingshan said unhappily, you are really a competent lackey of your master. Everyone now knows that Chen Wudi's mind is a little unclear. He thinks he is the reincarnation of the Monkey King and Ren Xiaosu is the reincarnation of Tang Monk. But no one had any opinions about Chen Wudi. In the whole team, if anyone had any difficulties, as long as you sincerely asked, Chen Wudi would definitely help. In this world, it is not easy to find such good people. Sometimes people would think that nowadays, only those with unclear minds are willing to be good people, which is really ironic. Ren Xiaosu, who was resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and looked at Li Qingshan. Don't worry, I'm here, nothing will happen. Of course, he couldn't tell Li Qingshan directly, don't worry, I am now the spy chief of the Qing family in the Li family, they will not attack wherever I am. So I can only give a vague explanation. Although Li Qingshan was very impressed by Ren Xiaosu, he still couldn't help asking, what if they concentrate their forces to attack us for revenge? Ren Xiaosu was impatient, let me drive for a while, and I'll answer you. Li Qingshan immediately grabbed the steering wheel, then I won't ask. Ren Xiaosu. Suddenly, a falcon flew over at low altitude. Ren Xiaosu looked out the window. The falcon's wingspan must be more than 4 meters long, right? Too creepy. Nowadays, with the ferocious birds in the sky, it is difficult for the flying troops to do anything in the field of air control. The main reason is that it is difficult to take off and it is very easy to be attacked by birds. In the past, human wars were more diversified than this era. It was the real flying is not a bird, diving is not a fish. Now there is only the ground battlefield left. The armored brigade and the artillery force have become the key to victory, and the nanorobots are the biggest variable in this war. At this time, Yang's armored brigade has quietly arrived at the Pingshan front line. In Yang's battle plan, once the war breaks out, this armored brigade will cooperate with 2 infantry brigades to tear open a 40-kilometer width from Li's defense line within 3 days, making all the defense support points of Li's Qingshan mountain line useless. Of course, Li will not sit still and wait for death. Each other's trump cards are still covered, and no one knows what the outcome will be after the curtain is lifted. Chapter 268, More Skills, Better to Have. In Li Qingshan's imagination, when they arrived at the 313th position, there would be soldiers there lining up to welcome them, and they would even take the initiative to serve them hot dishes and hot meals. After all, it was like this all the way. But when Ren Xiaosu led the private troops to the 313th position, he found that the soldiers in the barracks did not seem to be enthusiastic about them, which was completely opposite to the attitude of the forward base. The soldiers on the troop carriers looked at them coldly, and when the private troops arrived at the camp, there was not even anyone to meet them. Li Qingshan was scratching his head at the gate of the barracks. What's the situation? Don't you welcome us? Ren Xiaosu laughed happily and said, anyone can welcome us, but the soldiers of the 313th position will not welcome us. Just like Chen Wudi said, even you can guess that we have become a target on the battlefield, so the chief officer of the 313th position must have thought of it. Now Li Qingshan understood that the forward base welcomed them because they had a promising future, and the 313th position did not welcome them because their arrival meant that Qingzhen was likely to place a large number of troops here. The soldiers at the 313th position were in a good mood when they thought that they might have to fight the toughest battle in the future. However, Ren Xiaosu didn't care about that. He went through the procedures for entering the camp at the sentry post, and then walked in with more than 500 private soldiers. At this time, an officer blocked Ren Xiaosu's way. He looked at the soldiers behind Ren Xiaosu, and saw that the private soldiers were standing crookedly, and they didn't look like a fighting force. Although Ren Xiaosu and his team wiped out the Qing family's Special Operations Battalion, the problem was that this still couldn't change the nature of the group of refugees in the team. Not only did they stand crookedly, but they couldn't even wear their uniforms neatly. Originally, the officers at the 313th position thought in their hearts, come if you want, It would be fine if they really wanted an elite force. But now it seems that this so-called hero battalion is completely out of luck. The officer frowned at Ren Xiaosu and said, "You are Ren Xiaosu?" "Yes, it's me." Ren Xiaosu smiled. "How do you lead the troops?" The officer said coldly, "They can't even stand in line." "Don't you usually train?" "Who are you?" Ren Xiaosu said unhappily, "Do you look down on our hero battalion?" The other party was choked, and the officer paused and said, "I am Makai, the chief officer of the 313th position, with the rank of colonel. I saw the establishment of this 313th position with my own eyes, and I know all the fortifications here." Ren Xiaosu quickly shook his hand and said, "Thank you for your hard work. The consortium needs people like you who work hard." Makai said those words just now to let Ren Xiaosu know that he has the final say in this 313th position, and even if some shitty hero battalion comes, they have to obey his command. So why did Ren Xiaosu come to express his condolences? Makai said with a dark face, "Don't play dumb here. I don't know how you wiped out the Qing Special Forces Battalion, but in my eyes, you are just a bunch of shit, sent by the higher-ups to implicate us. I hope you have some self-awareness and don't be ignorant of the immensity of the heavens and the earth and think you are really heroes. Adjutant Zhang, you come and take them to where they should be. If there is nothing to do, don't come out to cause trouble for us." The large group of people in the private army didn't dare to say a word. They had enjoyed themselves all the way, but they were immediately exposed when they arrived here. Ren Xiaosu didn't say much. He followed Adjutant Zhang to the north while observing the surrounding terrain. Position 313 is a general term for defensive positions. It is the defensive support point of the entire Shuanglongshan frontline battlefield. It is located in the northernmost part of the entire battlefield and is also the closest place to the Qing army. The entire defensive position covers an area of more than 1,000 acres and extends to the hinterland of Shuanglong Mountain. Today's war is not about defending a high ground. If someone is stupid enough to defend a high ground, he will be flattened by enemy artillery fire in minutes. But if someone thinks that the defensive position is useless in the face of modern artillery fire, then they are wrong. Sometimes the common people in the fortress will often talk about the missile omnipotence theory after drinking a little wine and chatting, but only those who have actually fought in the war can understand that if the missile wants to be accurate, it must be piled with human lives to find opportunities for precision guidance. Moreover, there are medium-sized tactical trucks for near-ground air defense on important defensive positions. This thing is too good to intercept non-supersonic missiles, such as grenades, mortar shells, rockets, and other firearms that do not require precision guidance, and cannot break through its interception at all. Human beings are not just studying attack methods like a partial subject. Now, under the same firepower, whoever has a more advanced defense system will have a greater advantage. Qing could directly use artillery fire to plow the land, but the entire battlefield is so big, who can plow it all? That's all for money. War is for gaining benefits. If the benefits gained by the end of this war are not as much as the cost, then this war cannot be considered a victory. Ren Xiaosu walked and looked at those strange medium-sized military trucks. They were parked behind the bunkers, but Ren Xiaosu didn't know what these things were used for. After all, when he copied Yang Xiaojin's skills, he didn't copy this knowledge. Now he has a skill learning map in his hand and hasn't used it yet. Ren Xiaosu is considering whether to use it on Colonel Makai to learn some solid war skills. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu said directly in his mind, "Use the skill learning map." The voice of the palace sounded in his mind. The target skill will be randomly learned. The opponent's low-level rock-paper-scissors skill has been randomly drawn. Do you want to learn it? Ren Xiaosu was dumbfounded at the time. What the hell is the rock-paper-scissors skill? 5 top 666? Exclamation mark. Ren Xiaosu felt a little sad. Li was not serious about enforcing the alcohol ban. His officers even had the skill of rock-paper-scissors. Wasn't there anyone to take care of it? It would be fine if he got the skill of rock-paper-scissors, but it was a low-level one. If he used this skill to compete with others in drinking, wouldn't he get drunk to death? Exclamation mark. However, Ren Xiaosu knew that the probability of extracting the skill learning map was relatively low. When he drew Luo's and Ayu's skills before, he probably used up all his luck in recent years. So he was not particularly frustrated that he didn't learn any useful skills this time. At this time, Ren Xiaosu asked Gong Dian, What level is the command skill of this Makai? The target skill has been learned. I can tell you that the target army war command skill is advanced, Gong Dian replied. Ren Xiaosu was a little surprised that he was still a high-level player. No wonder he was sent to the 313th position as the chief officer. In the end, Ren Xiaosu still learned the rock-paper-scissors skill. After all, it's a waste not to learn. It's better to have more skills. He even learned to skip rubber ropes. What else is missing from this low-level rock-paper-scissors skill? It's not shameful to love learning. Chapter 269, The war is about to break out. 313 is very large, and if you are not familiar with it, you may get lost. Ren Xiaosu said to Adjutant Zhang, who was leading the way, can you take a map so that we can choose a defensive position? Adjutant Zhang looked back at him and said, the commander has already chosen a combat position for you. You just need to defend your position. All soldiers on the battlefield must obey orders, and soldiers do not need to be able to think. Ren Xiaosu curled his lips and said nothing. In fact, he didn't care. Anyway, Tang Zhou had already told Qing Zhen that he was going to position 313, and Qing would not attack anyone now. The reason why he asked this question was just to ask casually, to see if he could choose a position that was convenient for him to get out of the camp and contact Tang Zhou. If not, it doesn't matter, it's not a big problem. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu suddenly found that Chen Wudi was a little silent, so he asked, what's wrong? Chen Wudi said, Master, I heard many people in this camp say that they want us to die. Oh, this, Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized, don't worry, we will be fine even if they all die. Now Chen Wudi has opened up the ability of the wind-hearing ear for himself. Ren Xiaosu has tried it. Even if he whispers 1,000 meters away from Chen Wudi will still hear it. But this ability has side effects for Chen Wudi, because he can hear the evil in this world. The ancients emphasize being cautious when alone, and as the saying goes, you should also pay attention to your self-cultivation in private. But most people can't do it. People are used to saying bad things about others in private and magnifying their dark side in private. Those things that cannot be expressed openly will become worse in the dark. And now, Chen Wudi hears all these things. If Ren Xiaosu had this ability, he would certainly have no burden. After all, he himself is not clean. But Chen Wudi is different. Ren Xiaosu looked at Chen Wudi and asked, how can I not listen? No, Chen Wudi shook his head and said, they said that the people here have already chosen the most dangerous position for us. As long as Qing Zhen's troops come, we will be the first to die. What else did they say? Ren Xiaosu asked. They also said that we deserve to die, so as not to implicate them here, Chen Wudi said dejectedly, but it was not our decision to come here, and we did not offend them. Well, Ren Xiaosu said, they are wrong. Master, what do you think we are going to the west to obtain the scriptures for? Chen Wudi asked. Ren Xiaosu pondered for a moment, to live a good life. Chen Wudi was stunned for a moment. Master, are you serious? Isn't it for the salvation of all living beings? Ren Xiaosu patiently persuaded, you can only save others after you save yourself. Isn't there an idiom, judge others by yourself? As the saying goes, the rich will lead the poor, only you can. Chen Wudi interrupted, covering his head, Master, please stop for a moment, let me sort it out. On the night when Ren Xiaosu arrived at the 313th position, Luolan had secretly arrived at the 88th barrier of the Yang family, and this time Luolan was unusually low-key, bringing only 2 service soldiers. The top management of the Yang family had a secret meeting with Luolan, but no one in the outside world even knew that Luolan had gone to the Yang family, nor did they know what he talked about with the Yang family. But in the early morning of that day, the armored brigade and 2 infantry brigades of the Yang family suddenly advanced southward, and it was expected that they would reach the Qingsheng mountain line of the Li family in 2 days. They actually took the initiative to open the prelude to the war. Yang's army set out from Pingshan, with an armored brigade in front and an infantry division approaching the north of Qingsheng mountain on the side, intending to contain the enemy with firepower. As long as this line is broken, Li's western defense line will no longer have natural barriers. The same is true for Qing's side. As if they had discussed it beforehand, a mechanized force suddenly approached from the south at night. The long mechanized force meandered along the mountain road. The car lights at night were like beams of torches. Several engineering battalions on the road quickly repaired bridges and paved roads, which was incredibly fast. The Special Operations Forces had already been deployed to the battlefield to investigate the enemy. Some of Li's troops were still taking a short rest in the forward base, but tonight they all went to the front line. The 13 defense positions in Qingsheng Mountain were brightly lit, and the huge searchlights illuminated the entire camp. The barracks were full of the roars of officers. One after another, military trucks drove in, and the soldiers jumped out of the trucks and rushed to their designated target locations without stopping after landing. Ren Xiaosu sat on a hilltop and looked back. Their position was located at the northernmost part of the 313th position. Just as Chen Wudi had heard, Colonel Ma Kai had arranged them here to die. They only had 4 machine guns, not even a rocket, not to mention mortars. It would be a miracle if they could hold the position. So when the soldiers of the 313th position saw Ren Xiaosu and his men on the road before, they looked at them as if they were dead. No one thought they could survive. Chen Wudi was sitting next to Ren Xiaosu at this time. Ren Xiaosu said, "Tell me if you hear anything unusual. We also have to be careful that Qingzhen goes back on his word." "Yes," Chen Wudi nodded vigorously. Sitting at this higher position, Ren Xiaosu could vaguely see 1 or 2 kilometers behind him when he looked back. Soldiers in the camp were shuttling back and forth. Some people were holding red batons and constantly directing vehicles to stop. The rear command post was full of people coming in and out. However, Ren Xiaosu suddenly found something strange. There were 3 huge tents standing quietly in the camp. People were coming in and out of other tents at any time, but these 3 tents were quiet, and no soldiers even approached. What was going on? Was it Li's confidential area? At this time, Li Qingzhang came up with an automatic rifle. "Xiaosu, why am I a little panicked?" "Don't panic, there's nothing to panic about," Ren Xiaosu said with a smile. "At worst, we can just run away if the Qing army attacks." "You make it sound so easy, how can we just run away?" Li Qingzhang shook his head. He sat next to Ren Xiaosu and whispered, "Just now a team of scouts left our position. I heard them say that the Qing army seemed to be coming towards us and wanted to seek revenge on us." Ren Xiaosu frowned. Did the plan change? He turned his head to look at the camp behind him. Suddenly, he vaguely felt that many people in the camp seemed to be looking at them inadvertently. The war is about to break out. Everyone in the camp is resentful of their so-called hero camp. Even the rear troops who have just arrived at the 313th position are very upset when they hear that the hero camp is here. Everyone thinks that the Qing family will definitely attack here. It may not be clear who will win or lose in the war, but no one thinks that the hero camp can survive this war. Thank you for being the new leader of this book. I'm going to have a meal. There will be another update later. Chapter 270 The Hero Battalion actively seeks battle. Ren Xiaosu sent Li Qingzhang and Chen Wudi to set up defenses. When the Qing army arrived here, they would definitely build simple fortifications first and would not attack immediately. The attacking side also needed to build defensive positions. After all, their retreating soldiers also needed a place to treat their wounds and rest. He kept observing the 3 suspicious tents and even asked Li Qingzhang to bring him a telescope. This thing was sent when the new equipment was distributed, and Ren Xiaosu thought it was very useful. After all, the hearing and vision of the extraordinary people did not change much. The change in vision was mainly motion capture, not the distance that could be seen. However, the general who insisted on awarding Ren Xiaosu a title probably didn't expect that Ren Xiaosu used the telescope not to observe the Qing army, but to observe their Li army. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu saw a small group of people walking out of the tent, but these people were very low-key, wearing ordinary soldiers' uniforms, and didn't deal with anyone. But Ren Xiaosu was surprised to find that he actually knew the soldiers in this team. One of the people in that team was Lin Qi, the nano warrior who had gone to their outpost to show off. Wait, these 3 military tents are full of nano warriors from the Shenji battalion? Exclamation mark. Ren Xiaosu had a little regret before, because his outer armor was still missing a leg, but after searching everywhere, he finally found it without any effort. Ren Xiaosu looked around and found that no one noticed him, so he walked into the mountains alone. The soldiers in the 313 position avoided them like they were the plague, but this also made it convenient for Ren Xiaosu to go out and act, just in time. He had just walked 1 kilometer to the west when someone suddenly whispered behind a big tree in front of him, "A llama came from the north." Ren Xiaosu said, "A mute came from the south, come out." After Ren Xiaosu finished speaking, Tang Zhou came out from behind a tree. Tang Zhou asked, "Have you settled down at the 313th position? I can only act alone now. There are scouts patrolling nearby, and a large force will be discovered." "Well," Ren Xiaosu said, "are you going to attack the 313th position?" Tang Zhou said frankly, "In fact, it seems that we are coming with great momentum, but we only want to track the main force of the Li family from Shuanglong Mountain and Fengai Mountain. We don't plan to have too many people die here." Ren Xiaosu frowned. It seemed that the Li and Qing families would be deadlocked here for a while. They would fight, but they would not do anything serious. But what was the purpose of attracting the main force of the Li family? I don't understand. Qing Zhen must have other plans. Tang Zhou continued, "But we will launch an attack on the 313th and 319th positions at the same time in the early morning. Only if we fight hard, the main force behind the Li family will come. Of course, we will definitely feint the 313th position where you are, and we will also send you some remnants of Qing Yun's direct line, all of whom are soldiers without proper equipment and will not pose any threat to your position." Tang Zhou said this to dispel Ren Xiaosu's concerns. After all, there is still a chance for everyone to cooperate. However, at this time, he saw Ren Xiaosu said seriously, "Attack 313, don't worry about me, fight as much as you can, I will draw a simple deployment map for you, you just need to let our hero camp go. The deployment map is very important. Without it, the Qing family may have to pay the price of an infantry brigade to figure out how to distribute the heavy firepower of the 313th position." But Tang Zhou's mind was confused. What was Ren Xiaosu doing? Why did he take the initiative to ask for a fight? Did it succeed? Ma Kai asked in the command center, rubbing his eyebrows. A combat staff officer said, "We tried to blow up the temporary bridge they built, but we were discovered before we got close. The Qing family has thoroughly cleaned up the spies within the family. We can only hold our position now. There is no better way." The scouts sent back news that the Qing family has divided its troops into two groups. Divided into two groups. Ma Kai asked, "Where did they go?" "One group is heading for our 313 position, and the other group is heading for the 319 position, the combat staff officer said, "but we can't be sure how the troops are distributed. The 313 and 319 positions where they are located are the defensive support points of the entire front battlefield. They have always been in a relationship of mutual assistance. As long as these two defensive support points are still there, the entire front line will be stable. Therefore, if the Qing family wants to break through the Shuanglongshan defense line, they can't bypass these two positions at all." The combat staff said, "Qing Zhen has only one weakness, that is, he holds grudges, and he attaches great importance to the morale of the army. This is why the higher-ups sent that crappy hero battalion to the 313 position. So, I think his main force will still come to our 313 position." "No," Colonel Ma Kai shook his head and said, "You are wrong about this. I have studied Qing Zhen's previous combat intelligence. His military strategies on the battlefield seem to change a lot, making it difficult to figure out the truth, but he never takes risks, nor does he rush for merit. A few years ago, Qing Zhen was just starting out and fought against the Spark Company in Tifu Mountain. He could have clearly taken advantage of the victory, but he suddenly retreated. It takes a lot of courage and wisdom for a teenager in his early 20s to be able to do this. Facts have also proved that the Spark Company did have a backup plan at that time, but it was helpless in the face of the retreating Qing army. Everyone thinks that Qing Zhen is changeable and scheming, and likes to take unconventional approaches when employing troops, but Ma Kai thinks that is just a disguised appearance by Qing Zhen." The operations staff was stunned for a moment. "What do you mean?" "I think they are very likely to make a feint at our 313 position, and then attack the 319 position," Ma Kai analyzed. "Qing Zhen is not a person who will be blinded by hatred, and it is just the loss of a special operations battalion, there is no hatred at all." The operations staff echoed, "Colonel Ma Kai really understands the battlefield situation, and I agree with your point of view." Ma Kai said, "Notify the combat sequence below to prepare. Once it is discovered that Qing's attack on our 313 position is just a feint, then we need to be ready to support the 319 position at any time." The operations staff nodded. "Any other instructions?" Ma Kai suddenly said, "The position guarded by that Shida Hero battalion is irrelevant to the overall situation. If Qing's feint attack comes, other combat sequences should not support it. The operations staff was stunned. They were going to sell out the hero battalion. Boom, boom, boom. There were several roars in succession, and the whole ground seemed to tremble. Everyone in the command center was stunned. This was the sound of artillery fire. Then, fierce gunfire burst out in the night sky, and the battle broke out in an instant. What's going on? Why did the Qing family suddenly launch an attack? Exclamation mark. Is this crazy? A soldier suddenly ran in from outside and shouted, "The main force of the Qing family is approaching our 313 position." The close-range air defense missile vehicle intercepted their mortar shells, but they seem to have obtained our deployment map and are concentrating their firepower to attack our heavy firepower deployment point. Makai's face was as dark as water. This slap in the face came too quickly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 Qing Zhen harmed me. There was only one question that Makai couldn't figure out at this time. Why did Qing get the defense map of their 313 position? What is a defense map? It is the reality of a defensive position. Sometimes when the enemy attacks, they can have a headache for several days just for a breakthrough. They have heavy firepower weapons but don't know where to shoot, and they can't cover the whole area. Under normal circumstances, more ruthless generals will directly use cannon fodder to explore the reality. Just to find out where the heavy firepower of the position is, thousands of lives will be wasted. But now, Qing seems to have known the truth from the beginning, and even knows where the close-in air defense missiles of the 313 position are deployed. Close-in air defense missiles are very expensive, so they can only be deployed in important positions to prevent important positions from falling instantly due to artillery fire. However, Qing Zhen directly used a large number of mortars to pour them out as if they were free, and exchanged cheap mortar shells for close-in air defense missiles one for one. If Makai and others had known that the defense map had been leaked, the setting of close-in air defense missiles would definitely have been more conservative, but they didn't know. How could they know that the so-called hero battalion commander was actually the most valued spy of the Qing family? The defense map was given to them just like that. Just this round of unexpected mortar bombardment almost exhausted the ground-to-ground air defense missiles of the 313th position. It must be said that Qing Zhen's move was too disgusting. The defense map was too important. Originally, Qing Zhen planned to open a gap from the 319th position, but the appearance of the defense map made him change his strategy immediately. If Qing Zhen didn't have the defense map, those mortar shells would be wasted in large quantities, but now that Qing Zhen has the defense map, he can achieve a closer precision strike, which makes the ground-to-ground air defense forces anxious. Although the Li family has developed its armaments well and has a good talent reserve in recent years, it has basically never fought a large-scale war. Even a talent like Makai who has a thorough study of war is just a novice. No matter how sufficient a person's theoretical knowledge is, it takes some time to put this knowledge into practice and learn some lessons. Unfortunately, they are facing Qing Zhen, who does not intend to give them time to grow. At this time, Ren Xiaosu led the hero battalion on the battlefield. They were located on a small hilltop. On the hilltop were small bunkers and heavy fortifications, and in front of them was a 43-degree slope. Ren Xiaosu lay behind the fortifications and looked down. The soldiers of the hero battalion next to him were shaking with their guns. Li Qingzhang listened to the continuous artillery fire in the distance, and asked in a trembling voice, "Battalion commander, the Qing family will not use mortars to bombard us, we can't bear it." "What are you afraid of?" Ren Xiaosu said, "It hasn't been bombarded yet." At this time, there were shadowy Qing soldiers approaching the hillside of the position. Ren Xiaosu estimated the number of the enemy and was afraid that there were thousands of them. This was an infantry regiment. "Fight?" Li Qingzhang asked. "Fight? Of course we have to fight. We have the advantage of terrain, so why don't we fight?" Ren Xiaosu said. "Wait until they get closer. If they get closer, the distance will be enough for them to throw grenades." Li Qingzhang was anxious. "Don't panic, everything is under control," Ren Xiaosu said calmly. The next moment, the infantry regiment of the Qing family had reached the halfway point of the mountain. Ren Xiaosu suddenly yelled, Open fire. The 4 heavy machine guns in the bunker were like spitting out flames. Machine gun bullets splashed the dirt on the halfway point of the mountain. This bullet hit a person's arm and broke it directly. The Qing soldiers wanted to rush up, but they couldn't. They wanted to shoot at Ren Xiaosu's position, but the advantage of the fortifications was too great. Generally speaking, in modern warfare, the way to deal with such high ground is usually to rush forward, wait until you are far enough away, and then use laser precision guidance to track artillery fire. This laser guidance is used to locate the missiles in the rear. They had already rushed up with all their might. One soldier was holding a laser-guided machine, but he had been shining the light on the position for a long time, but there was no fire support. The commander was completely desperate. Qing Zhen is harming me. In fact, he knew very well that he was Qing Yun's direct descendant, and he had not cooperated with Qing Zhen's combat plan recently. Qing Zhen must want to get rid of him as soon as possible. But he didn't expect Qing Zhen to be so shady and dare to use the victory or defeat of the war to trick him. If he couldn't take down the position in front of him, what if it affected the overall situation? But what he didn't know was that Qing Zhen had no intention of taking down this position at all, because Qing Zhen had to deal with Ren Xiaosu. "Captain, what should we do now?" A soldier shouted against the heavy firepower on the mountain. "Use RPG rockets." The commander roared. With a bang, a soldier carrying an RPG on his shoulder was blown away, and the rocket exploded before it was even fired. "Captain, what should we do now?" "Charge." The commander gritted his teeth and said, "Charge and blow up the position with grenades. This is the only way to survive. There should not be many defenders in this position. We still have hope. The stupid way to break through the high ground is to throw grenades. Wait for the attacking soldiers to break through to a certain distance, and then throw grenades to bomb the position. At this time, the people on the position can't stand it. So this is the importance of grenade throwers in the army in the past. Whoever throws the grenade accurately will get meat." Of course, this method was gradually eliminated after the firepower was advanced. Unless in extreme cases, there is no need to do this. The rocket launcher is broken. When rushing to the middle of the mountain, it is found that there is no fire support. The commander is a little desperate. Qing Zhen has tricked him into using this rustic method. In the army, there are several brave grenade throwers who immediately continue to break through upwards. After reaching the specified distance, the grenade flew out of their hands. Everyone on the mountainside was excited. The army defending the position on the mountain had no experience. They actually broke through to the position where they could throw grenades. After waiting for a long time, the grenade that was thrown exploded, but the sound was very small. The regiment commander was a smart man, so he got angry when he heard the sound. "Qing Zhen villain, you are bullying me too much? You actually gave us training bullets. The training bullets are not models, but they are extremely powerful. They can only make noises but cannot cause effective damage. They look exactly the same in appearance." The regiment commander was about to cry. He only now realized that Qing Zhen was really unscrupulous and left no way out. Ren Xiaosu fired a few shots on the hillside, just like he was reviewing his advanced firearm skills. The automatic rifle made him feel like he was shooting with a sniper rifle. He shot one enemy at a time, with unparalleled accuracy. Ren Xiaosu also said to Li Qingzhang at this time, "Look, we are the hero battalion. The Qing troops on the opposite side can't pose a threat to us at all." Li Qingzhang believed it at the time, because he also felt very relaxed. At this time, other soldiers in the hero battalion found that the war didn't seem to be so scary. Chapter 272: The Heroic Battalion that Saves the Wounded and Rescue the Dying. Ren Xiaosu and his men consumed their ammunition very quickly, mainly because they had not fought much before. They had only fought once against the Qing Special Forces Battalion, and they fought in a confused manner. They didn't even know how they won in the first place. The conclusion after the war was that the battalion commander was wise and brave, and tricked the other side into surrendering. Now when they fight again, the opponent is a full-strength infantry regiment of 1,500 people, while they only have 500 people. Except for Ren Xiaosu, no one knows that this infantry regiment was actually sent by Qing Zhen to give away their heads, so everyone must be a little panicked. When they panic, their hands will shake a little, and they will shoot bullets as if they are free, and they will not let go of the trigger. People on other positions only heard the continuous and roaring gunfire from their position, but they had no idea what the battle situation was here. Gradually, The infantry regiment below was suppressed and beaten so hard that they couldn't even raise their heads. The barrels of the heavy machine guns turned red. Ren Xiaosu cursed, "It's stupid to pee on the barrels to cool down." When the soldier who is responsible for delivering bullets to the heavy machine gun heard it, he quickly pulled up his pants and peed on it. As a result, the machine gunner also cursed, "You peed on my face." Just like this group of amateurs who were in a hurry, with the help of the Qing family, they managed to defend the high ground of the Li family. Many people would underestimate the power of heavy machine guns, thinking that it was just a gun. How could it be as powerful as a cannon? But war is never about data. In positional warfare, the power of heavy machine guns is greater than imagined. In the history of human warfare, someone once shot and killed as many as 3,200 people in one day with a heavy machine gun. Seeing that the infantry regiment was beaten to pieces, Ren Xiaosu had time to use a telescope to observe other positions. Just this one look shocked him. He saw that some soldiers of the Qing clan had broken through. They climbed to several other high grounds under the cover of artillery fire, while the entire 313 position of the Li clan was bombarded to pieces. The high ground with heavy firepower was broken through by the Qing clan. This was a result that no one had expected before the war. The ground of the rear camp was no longer flat, and it seemed that it had been bombarded hard. However, the Qing clan did not seem to intend to take down the entire 313 position in one go. Qing Zhen, who was familiar with tactics, knew very well that after they captured the 313 position, they would definitely face a crazy counterattack from the Li clan. In a war, it is very likely that a certain high ground will change hands hundreds of times. At the end of the war, the hillside of the high ground was stained red with blood, and the blood penetrated into the ground, and anyone who stepped on it would slip. Therefore, the success of seizing the high ground does not mean that the war will end. As soon as a high ground was occupied by the Qing clan, it was bombarded by the dense artillery fire of the Li clan, and the Qing clan soldiers who rushed up fell down in an instant. War is cruel. It doesn't care whether you have parents to support or whether your son is waiting for you at home. All its behaviors are oriented to the final victory. Ren Xiaosu used a telescope to observe the rear. His only focus was on the three mysterious military tents. In other words, he only cared about the movements of the Nano warriors. The defense map he gave before was not particularly complete. After all, Ren Xiaosu did not have the opportunity to walk through the 313 position completely, so he could only draw what he saw. But the military camps of the Nano warriors were specially marked by him, and he told Tang Zhou that the artillery fire must cover that side. Of course, without laser guidance and accurate mapping, it is not realistic to want to accurately strike the rear, but Qing Zhen still covered the three tents at a greater cost as they agreed. Ren Xiaosu saw that the three tents were no longer there, and there was still a pile of corpses and blood on the ground. Seeing this, Ren Xiaosu became excited. Suddenly, the palace said in his mind, "Mission, rescue 100 people. You can get 5 distribution points." Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment. He hadn't thought of an excuse to go back to the rear of the position just now, but the palace immediately helped him find a reason. He took a look at the few remaining infantry regiments below the position, and then shouted to Chen Wudi, "Wudi, come back to the position with me to rescue people, there are many wounded there." As he said, Ren Xiaosu also selected a combat team to go with him. Several students of Zheng Wu were in this team. Chen Wudi's eyes lit up. "Okay, master." As he said, the two rushed back. Li Qingzhang was almost scared to death. "Battalion commander, don't leave. What will we do if you leave?" "It's okay, just take care of the position. The remaining people in the infantry regiment can't make any big waves." Ren Xiaosu shouted without turning his head. Li Qingzhang was stunned for a long time. He originally thought that they would be very difficult here, but now they all have enough energy to go back to rescue the wounded. Before this, everyone in the entire 313th position thought that Ren Xiaosu and his men were finished. As a result, some troops had already died in the battle, while the hero battalion had only suffered more than 100 casualties. Although this number of casualties accounted for 1/5 of the total number of people, with bullets and artillery fire flying on the battlefield, it can be called a miracle to have only so few casualties. 100 casualties, and the complete annihilation of the enemy's 1,500-man infantry regiment. If you say this out, you're afraid that it will scare the lead generals in the rear. Of course, annihilation is an exaggeration, but Ren Xiaosu will definitely say so. Ren Xiaosu led Chen Wudi and his men to rush to the rear of the position. At this time, the position was in chaos. The tent of the headquarters had been overturned, and Ma Kai didn't know where he ran to. The medical soldiers rescued people everywhere, but there were too many casualties. How could they save them all? But Ren Xiaosu had a clear goal. He rushed in and led Chen Wudi and the others to the location where the nano warriors were before. Ren Xiaosu shouted, "Wudi, take them to carry the wounded to treat them." At this time, Ren Xiaosu was already looking for the dead nano warriors. The smoke was so thick that sometimes he couldn't even see where the people were. However, Ren Xiaosu had a good sense of direction. He quickly found the location of the 3 tents. Whenever he encountered a nano warrior, he immediately asked the palace to unlock and flash the machine. After completing a set of procedures, he quickly put the nano robot into his own space. There is an upper limit to the number of nano robots that the human body can carry. This time, Ren Xiaosu harvested so many nano robots that he couldn't hide them on his body, so he had to put them in the storage space. The wounded lay on the ground wailing. Someone tried to grab Ren Xiaosu who passed by him, but Ren Xiaosu didn't even look at him. The wounded were stunned. "Aren't you here to save the wounded?" "Wait." The wounded recognized Ren Xiaosu. "Ren Xiaosu. You are Ren Xiaosu. Come and save me." At this time, Ren Xiaosu is still a little unsatisfied after collecting a circle of nanorobots. He turned around and heard the cry for help and was stunned. "Hey, isn't that Lin Qi lying on the ground?" He laughed cheerfully. "I'm sorry, I didn't see you just now. How are you injured?" Lin Qi struggled and said, "Now is not the time to reminisce about the past, you." Before he finished speaking, he saw Ren Xiaosu picked up a shrapnel on the ground and stabbed it into his neck. Lin Qi looked up at Ren Xiaosu, but found that there was only endless coldness in Ren Xiaosu's eyes. Ren Xiaosu said regretfully, "It's a pity that the wolf pack failed to kill you last time." Lin Qi's eyes widened, but he couldn't make any sound. It turned out that the wolf pack was also related to Ren Xiaosu, and he had already fully understood that Ren Xiaosu was much more powerful than he had guessed from the beginning. This was the last bit of consciousness Lin Qi had in this world, and then he fell into endless darkness. Chapter 273 Mission accomplished. Li was really unlucky. They had the killer weapon of nanorobots but never used it to its fullest extent. On the one hand, Li lacked war experience, so they used it in some wrong ways. As Qing Zhen said, a combat unit with strong power and mobility like nano warriors must be divided into small units, infiltrated behind enemy lines and carry out precise strikes on important enemy facilities. For example, power stations, arsenals, and decapitation operations. The power of nano warriors can only be exerted if the Shenji battalion is separated. But in fact, it is not impossible to use them together. If Ren Xiaosu, the spy chief, was not there, even if the Shenji battalion was not very good, it could still cause great trouble to Qing. But it's all over. And now, the 319 position is better. Qing was just fainting there, so the nano warriors who had been hiding suddenly appeared in the back of the battlefield, which caught Qing off guard. Even the heavy firepower weapons in the back were almost destroyed by the nano warriors. But it was different at the 313th position. The nano warriors hadn't even walked out of the tent yet, so the secret weapon was really just a secret. Moreover, the biggest advantage of nano robots was that they were recyclable. The first batch of nano warriors didn't care at all. After the nano robots were recycled, a new batch of nano warriors could still be organized. But since Ren Xiaosu came to the Li family, the number of nano robots that could be recycled became fewer and fewer. Ren Xiaosu single-handedly turned renewable weapons into consumable weapons. This time, the number of nano robots Ren Xiaosu harvested was huge. Not to mention that his leg was repaired. Maybe after giving some to Yan Liwen, there would be some left for Zhang Wu's students. At this time, Ren Xiaosu saw the scattered nano warriors marching backpacks on the ground. He opened them and found a heavy black metal box inside. He didn't know what it was used for. "Hey," Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up. "Could this thing be used for wireless charging?" Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu picked up 3 intact ones and stuffed them into the space. Whether they were useful or not, he would take them first. If you pass by, you can't miss it. Today, Ren Xiaosu gave the Qing family a defense map, which allowed the Qing family to successfully destroy the 313th position and successfully eliminate dissidents. Ren Xiaosu also used the power of the Qing family to harvest a large number of nanorbits, which can be said to be a win-win situation. The only loser is the Li family. At this time, the Li family on the Qingsheng mountain front also welcomed the Yang family's armored brigade and infantry brigade. The war was more intense than this side from the beginning, but because of the lack of a role like Ren Xiaosu, the Yang family has been unable to tear through the Li family's defense line. At this time, Chen Wudi and his team had found a lot of wounded soldiers and were carrying them to the medical center. Ren Xiaosu picked up a wounded soldier in the camp and carried him on his shoulders and followed the team. When they arrived at the medical center, the nurses and doctors here were covered in blood. At this time, Ren Xiaosu saw that the colonel named Ma Kai was also lying here, but he was unconscious. The nurses were stunned when they saw Ren Xiaosu and his team. This is not a medical soldier, why is he helping to carry the wounded? The doctor asked, which combat sequence are you from? Chen Wudi said proudly, we are from the Hero Battalion. A wounded soldier was stunned when he heard them say that, aren't you on the front line? Why do you look fine? Ma Kai was woken up, and when he saw Ren Xiaosu, he was furious, did you abandon your position? Ren Xiaosu was unhappy, what are you talking about? Our Hero Battalion has such a strong sense of honor in its combat sequence, how could we abandon our position? We have wiped out the enemy's infantry regiment, and only then do we come to help other brother units. What? Ma Kai exclaimed, you have to lie logically. How can you, those crappy refugees, wipe out the local infantry regiment? Ma Kai knew the Qing army best. He knew that the infantry regiment was not just infantry. Not to mention heavy firepower such as RPGs and mortars, if they were broken through with laser guidance, the entire position would be reduced to ashes. A worthless hero battalion made up of refugees, with only 4 machine guns, actually claimed that they had wiped out the infantry regiment? Living in a dream? Everyone thought that the hero battalion would be wiped out, but in the end, the hero battalion was the most active, and nothing happened. Everyone in the entire medical center couldn't accept this result. Ren Xiaosu was happy, you will know if you go to the battlefield. I don't have time to waste with you now. I have to save people. Now that the nanorbits have been taken care of, Ren Xiaosu will start to do the task seriously. The task standard is 100 people. He has just saved 1 person and is still far from completing the task. This is the first time that the palace has announced the reward when issuing a task, and the reward is 5 distribution points. In the past, the tasks were rewarded with 1 point of strength or 1 point of agility. This time, you can choose by yourself, and there are as many as 5 points. The reward is quite generous. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu rushed out. At this time, 2 soldiers were carrying a stretcher back outside. Ren Xiaosu saw it and immediately shouted, let me do it. The soldier was stunned for a moment, no, we can carry it. Ren Xiaosu's face suddenly turned black. He pointed his pistol at the medical soldier, I said let me do it, don't you understand? Chen Wudi sighed from behind, Master is so murderous even when he is saving people. At this time, the 313 position suddenly welcomed the support troops from the rear. As Qing Zhen expected, when the 313 and 319 positions were attacked, the rear would definitely send more troops here to fight a tug-of-war with the Qing family. And the scene was exactly what Qing Zhen wanted to see. While carrying the wounded to the medical center, Ren Xiaosu observed these troops. At this time, he found that there was a very strange troop. The soldiers moved in an extremely orderly manner, which made Ren Xiaosu feel an indescribable weirdness. But he didn't have time to care about these, and continued to complete his tasks and snatch the wounded. This task alone took up an hour of Ren Xiaosu's time. When Ren Xiaosu heard Guang Dian say that the task was completed, he immediately allocated the points, 4 points of agility, 1 point of strength. Ren Xiaosu's strength is now as high as 10.5, and even his agility has reached the level of 10.1. Ren Xiaosu's muscles have been refined again, and he has become thinner. He looks like a teenager who has not exercised much, but he has amazing strength. Guang Dian said, because the strength and agility have exceeded the critical point. Ren Xiaosu was about to hear what Guang Dian was going to say, but something strange happened in the medical clinic, so he didn't pay attention to what he said and looked up at the medical clinic. But he saw someone in the medical clinic yelling at Chen Wudi, get out. If it weren't for your hero battalion at the 313 position, why would Qing Zhen send the main force here? I don't need you to pretend to save people here. Ren Xiaosu looked at Chen Wudi, but saw Chen Wudi walked out of the medical clinic in silence without saying anything. Ren Xiaosu patted his shoulder calmly. Let's go back to our own position. Yes, Chen Wudi agreed in a low voice. I don't know if the infantry regiment over there has been defeated, Ren Xiaosu said. If it's defeated, let's go pick up some equipment or something. Okay, Chen Wudi's answer was still very brief. What do you want to eat tonight? Ren Xiaosu asked. Master, bacon fried rice is okay. The people in the medical clinic looked at the backs of the two people leaving, and they didn't know what to say. It's almost the end of the month, please give me a monthly ticket. Chapter 274, Thorough Investigation of the Lost Nanorbit Case. The war had not stopped. After Ren Xiaosu and Chen Wudi returned from the rear, the battle on the front line was still going on fiercely. However, when the Qing soldiers rushed to the high ground, the war began to stalemate. However, while the life and death struggle was going on in other places, Ren Xiaosu returned to their high ground and prepared to start a fire and cook. After all, they had brought pots and pans, and it was indeed time for dinner. Ren Xiaosu felt that fighting was one thing, but eating could not be delayed, not to mention that Chen Wudi wanted to eat bacon fried rice. Li Qing was listening to the roar of artillery fire from the next high ground. He hesitated for a moment and asked, is it not a good idea for us to have dinner at this time? What's wrong with that? Ren Xiaosu lit the firewood and put the iron pot on it. Haven't we completed the mission? And you see, we are still fighting this battle, and the infantry regiment is still hiding halfway up the mountain. At this time, the commander of the infantry regiment had not died yet. He didn't want to attack the high ground anymore, but the key point was that in order to provide laser guidance for the missiles in the rear, they rushed to the halfway up the mountain in one breath, but were trapped here by Qing Zhen. As long as they looked up, there would be a volley of bullets above. If there was no fire cover from the rear, they couldn't leave even if they wanted to. The commander of the infantry regiment wanted to die after this battle. At this time, Li Qingzhang said, there aren't many people left in the infantry regiment. How about we rush down and shoot them? Ren Xiaosu decisively refused. Our mission is to defend this high ground. Just hold it and that's it. Let's not talk about whether there will be casualties if we rush down. Even if there are no casualties, Ren Xiaosu doesn't want to take risks. After all, they were sent to the most dangerous place, which made Ren Xiaosu very unhappy. The people in the medical center just scolded Chen Wudi, but they didn't think about it. Did the hero battalion decide to come to the front line? Exclamation mark. Even if there was no Ren Xiaosu, the Qing family was just feinting against the 313 position, but a feint would also be a real attack, just with less firepower, and many people would die. A feint attack is not just standing there shouting without fighting. As he was talking, Ren Xiaosu had already cooked the rice and started cutting bacon. The soldiers of the hero battalion went to guard the high ground, while others squatted beside the big pot, waiting for the meal to be served. While cooking, Ren Xiaosu paid some attention to the palace. He remembered what the palace had said just now, but Chen Wudi was being scolded at the time, so he didn't hear it all. At this time, Ren Xiaosu was stunned when he saw the record on the brass typewriter in the palace. The line on it read, because strength and agility exceed the critical point, the skill city destruction is activated, strength and agility can be doubled within 30 seconds, and the cooldown time is 1 day. What is this? How did such a skill suddenly pop up? Although the time is a bit short, once it is activated, Ren Xiaosu is equivalent to having 21 points of strength and 20.2 agility. If this skill is used well, it is still quite useful, and it may be able to catch the enemy off guard. But what is the critical point mentioned by the palace? Is it 10 points? Does that mean that there will be an additional skill every time the threshold is passed? It turns out that there is such an extra reward when physical fitness reaches a certain level. Thinking of this, Ren Xiaosu added bacon to the pot and stirred the stir-frying spoon a few times. Li Qing was watching from the side. Seeing that the rice was not ready yet, the high ground next door had changed hands twice. The fighting was really fierce. But it was strange that the Qing family never sent troops to them again. After the bacon fried rice was ready, Ren Xiaosu immediately served a bowl to Chen Wudi. There were also some rules for serving rice. After Chen Wudi took the bowl, he found that the bottom of the bowl was full of meat when he stirred the chopsticks. Ren Xiaosu threw the spoon into the pot and said, "Okay, you guys serve yourselves." You are all waiting for the battalion commander to serve you rice. After that, Ren Xiaosu sat next to Chen Wudi. How about sweet and salty? Delicious, Chen Wudi laughed, his mouth full of oil. Master, why are you so good to me? In fact, Ren Xiaosu had already discovered that it seemed that the more evil things Chen Wudi encountered, the more sober he became. Chen Wudi no longer yelled Ben Borba when he saw Luolan like he used to. He would even often be silent and dazed for a long time. So Chen Wudi spoke more like a normal person now. Ren Xiaosu didn't know whether this was a good thing or a bad thing. He sighed and said, when I listened to Mr. Zhang's lectures before, I also thought about being a good person, but later I found that it was not easy to be a good person, so I gave up. Chen Wudi buried his head in his meal and stopped talking after hearing this. Ren Xiaosu continued to sigh, sometimes when I see you, I feel a little ashamed, because the light in my heart should have been extinguished a long time ago. So sometimes I am obviously not a good person, but I want you to be a good person. Maybe this makes me seem a little hypocritical, but when I protect you, I have an illusion that my own fire has not been completely extinguished. In a corner of the 108th barrier, deep underground of a garment factory, there is a huge underground secret base. Hu Shua once tried to explore here, but his people could never penetrate it. This place is directly under the jurisdiction of the Li Presidium, which is only responsible for all matters related to nanorobots. Few people know that there is actually a small army underground in this garment factory. In a room underground, incandescent lamps are hanging on the ceiling. A middle-aged man is sitting in front of a blackboard, thinking about something. In his hand is a document, which is the file about the theft of nanorobots. The middle-aged man is called Li Dingding. Few people know his existence. He is the shadow of Li. Like Qingzhen, he specializes in doing shady things for the consortium. The only difference between him and Qingzhen is that Qingzhen always exposes himself to the sun and can even control the army, while he always hides in the dark. At this time, Li Dingding looked at the file. Many evidences in it pointed to a superhuman named Su Zianshu. The other party was suspected to be a spy of the Yang Consortium. He came here to collect nanorobot samples for Yang. But Li Dingding felt something was wrong as soon as he finished reading the file. If it was just collecting samples, why would he collect so many? You know, the nanorobots and the dozens of corpses that have been transported back now have been stolen. This is impossible to steal samples. I don't know what the previous investigators did. Li Dingding sneered, a bunch of idiots. The file in his hand was very detailed, even including the whole process of Lin Qi and others entering the mountain, the preparations made by the Shenji camp to attack the Qing family, the daily feedback information of the Shenji camp, and so on. But he looked at it for a long time, but still had no clue. At this time, someone knocked on the door outside, and Li Dingding said, "Come in." But he saw a man holding a new file and handed it to him. "Sir, this is a new case handed down from above. It is said that a batch of nanorobots were damaged. It seems that it was caused by the synchronization coordination rate of 0. Chapter 275 Isolation and Review. Nanorobots are damaged? Li Dingding frowned and asked, "What's going on? Did you find the person with a synchronization rate of 0? No, there were many people who underwent synchronization and coordination checks that day, and many of them were refugees, so the staff of those laboratories did not record the synchronization and coordination rates of each person in detail. Only those above 80 were recorded," the subordinate whispered, "but the rosters of several troops that had been tested that day are all here." Li Dingding was so angry that he laughed. He looked at the thick stack of rosters in his hand and said, "They are just lazy. How dare they be lazy about such a thing? But how could such a case be transferred to me? Can't you handle it?" "No," the subordinate bowed his head and said, "This is something the Presidium specifically told you to do. It said that the program loaded on the nanorobot was cleared." As soon as these words came out, Li Dingding was stunned. He knew nanorobots very well, because he usually came into contact with the most events related to nanorobots, but in his opinion, the program loaded on the nanorobot would not be cleared. This operation would only be done after the nanorobots were recycled to the factory and confidential processing was carried out, and even required the Presidium to grant C1 authority. No wonder the Presidium gave him this matter to supervise. This has touched the top secrets of the Li family. Li Dingding said, "Okay, you go out first." After that, he looked through the files alone. The previous case has not been solved yet, and he didn't expect that a new one would come. After reading the files, Li Dingding began to have a headache. There was not even a single useful clue in it except for the thick roster. Li Dingding took the file and flipped through it quickly. As a result, he was stunned after reading it for more than 10 minutes. No. There's a problem. He quickly picked up the previous file and quickly checked it. However, in less than 2 minutes, Li Dingding suddenly laughed. Because when he was looking at the roster, he suddenly saw something unusual. Repeated names. Li Qingzheng, Ren Xiaosu, Chen Wudi, Wang Yuqi. The names of the entire combat team appeared 3 times in these 2 documents. The first time was the roster of the sentry post. The second time was the roster of the private troops who exchanged military uniforms with the Shenjiang. The third time was the roster of all troops on the day of the physical examination. Li Dingding has always believed that too many coincidences may be the answer. There is something wrong with this combat team, at least the people in it have problems. Li Dingding picked up the phone and said, "Arrest the combat team of Ren Xiaosu and Li Qingzheng from the 2nd Iron Battalion of the Private Army." The person on the other end of the phone said, "Are you sure you want to arrest them directly?" Li Dingding frowned. "Are my words not working?" "No," the person on the other end of the phone said, "I know these people. Ren Xiaosu is now a benchmark set by the entire army. The 2nd Iron Battalion has also been changed to the Hero Battalion, and Ren Xiaosu is still the battalion commander of the Hero Battalion." Li Dingding was confused. What the hell is this turning point? The person on the other end of the phone continued, "If you are sure that he is guilty, then we will arrest him now, but if you are suspicious, we have to keep a low profile. Now they are the only ones in the entire army who have won a victory and wiped out the Qing family's Special Operations Battalion. And they are now in the 313 position, where there is a battle. It must be said that the Hero Battalion, the benchmark of the entire army, is indeed a very good umbrella. Ordinary people will not easily touch such a benchmark. Moreover, they are in the middle of a war. If there is a problem with this benchmark, who will be responsible for the morale of the army?" Even Li Dingding did not dare to say that he could take it down. Li Dingding smiled and said, "I will go to the 313 position in person. This matter will be carried out in secret." At night, the battle on the 313 position had stopped. After the arrival of Li's follow-up troops, they immediately took back all the lost high ground, and almost at all costs, they drove back the Qing army. In the evening, there was a cheer in the 313 position, but Ren Xiaosu felt that Li was cheering too early. Although he didn't know why Qingzhen wanted to track all the Li's frontline troops, Qing's short retreat now could not prove who lost or who won. War is never that simple. At night, a cross-country convoy suddenly drove into the 313 position, and after a brief exchange with the highest general of the 313 position, it immediately headed straight for the high ground where Ren Xiaosu and his team were. Ren Xiaosu had been observing the rear with a telescope, so when this special cross-country convoy came in, it had already attracted his attention. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu had an ominous premonition, and he even felt that the other party was coming for him. The convoy drove up, and no one notified them what they were going to do. Just an officer holding a list said, "Ren Xiaosu, Li Qingzheng, Chen Wudi. The 16 of you get in the car and follow us back to the 313 position." Ren Xiaosu and Li Qingzheng looked at each other, and he had already discovered that all the names mentioned were members of their combat team. Before the assembly, there were 30 people in the outpost, and one of them was recruited from another combat team. Now, after 2 battles, there were only 16 people left in their combat team. Ren Xiaosu wanted to leave here, but the other party even called out his name, so it would be too easy to follow the clues to find Yan Liuan and others in the barrier. If Yan Liuan was caught, the situation would be even worse. At this time, there were soldiers pointing their guns at them all around. If Ren Xiaosu wanted to run at this time, Zhang Wu's 8 students would probably have to die here. Moreover, Ren Xiaosu suddenly found that the 30 soldiers who tried to surround them seemed to be all nano warriors. Li Qingzheng whispered, "Xiaosu, what's going on?" "It's okay, let's go and see with him first." Ren Xiaosu decided to follow this group of people back to the 313 position first. He now needs to wait for an opportunity, but he can't tell anyone about his plan. In the 313 position, someone has specially vacated 2 military tents. It seems that the people who came are very high status. Even the new generals of the 313 position are polite to them. These people arranged for Ren Xiaosu and his team to sit in a tent. A middle-aged man introduced himself with a smile. "Good evening, everyone. My name is Li Dingding. I am here just to investigate something. Please don't panic. After all, you are all my Li family's combat heroes. If there are any misunderstandings during this period, please forgive me." Although Li Dingding spoke kindly, Ren Xiaosu always felt that he had bad intentions. Moreover, he singled out their combat team for investigation. 9 out of 10 things were exposed, but Ren Xiaosu didn't know how much was exposed. But it didn't matter. Ren Xiaosu is still waiting for an opportunity. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.